Boo! What? Hello everyone. Hello. I forgot to warm up, so we're gonna warm up together once I switch screens. But hello everyone, how you guys doing? Welcome to class. Come on in. Come on in. Let me go ahead and scroll up and say our hellos, and then we'll warm up, and then I think we might have to jump right into it because we have a lot to talk about today. Or a lot to deep dive into. Excuse me. I just drank a lot of chocolate milk. Chalky milk, some like Nesquik chocolate chip cookie milk. But hello, we got Matthew, wait, what's that sound? So what's that sound? Oh my gosh. Last of the Jamie, Jaime. Thank you for the bits. Cops came the other and told me my dogs were chasing people on bikes, which is BS because my dogs don't even have bikes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for the bits. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Hope you're having a good day. Yeah, we're gonna continue our conversation from Tuesday in it. But let's say our hellos. We got Matthew, we got Saribot as always. We got Seishun, we got Folk. You guys got your stickers. Get your stickers. I was listening to Casper Catacini's debut / karaoke. Gosh, he's so good. He's so funny. And then hello, last of the Jamesians. As always, hello. Welcome. Testosterodel, hello. I'm glad you're here for part 2. And then once again, last of the Jamesians. Thanks again for the bits. That's so generous of you. That's so generous. Alright, let's go ahead and head to class. Wah. We're in. We're here. Let me put some music. Some vaporwave. Wow. I love that emote, by the way. Yeah, thanks for the big emote, Matthew. The chat and puns. I am a pun appreciator. Yes, I might occasionally groan and stuff, but like I am a pun appreciator. But how you guys doing? Wait, I said we were gonna warm up. Let's go ahead and warm up because I don't want to like yap and then realize that like my voice is shot before we've even begun part 2, right? Because today, oh yeah, let's do our welcome. So hello everyone, hello. It's me, BINKA Bear, your local sun bear, art history teacher, and educational streamer. And today we're doing part 2 of our deep dive in Greco-Roman deities in Digimon by looking at a group known as the Olympus 12. So today we're going to focus on the children of Jupiter, or maybe even Jupitermon. You're a glutton for punishment? No, just punishment. Just reminds me of that one Community episode where it's like, oh my god, are you two fighting? No, we weren't. We were fighting. Dang, there's no way to like say a better word. You're a glutton for punishment? No, I love punishments. Yeah, let's. You guys want to warm up together? I'm gonna warm up my voice with you guys. So, oh wait, where's my? Let me put that back. I gotta wow you guys. Projector mini browser. We are sharing a 5-minute vocal warm up. Okay, I need to do this or else my voice is gonna be shot by the end of this presentation. Olympos, you mean the VTuber agency Mythos? I've checked out some of their VTubers before. I think I checked out Poseidon and Zeus, and they were pretty cool. But I think one of them is even Filipino, but there's just so many VTubers to support in so little time, right? Okay, let's warm up together, shall we? You guys can follow along if you want, but I'm just saying let's do it together just so that I don't feel so strange, because it does feel strange a little bit to warm up in front of an audience, but it's very necessary, so let's do this. We're starting with... Oh, it's so loud. It's so loud. There you go. Stand up straight. while I'm warming up, feel free to give me some tongue twisters to do as well. I need to warm up with tongue twisters too. I think it's time to go down an octave. Na 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 na. Nice. We're doing mums. Mum 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 mum. Oh, my back is killing me. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Always get to take care of your voice. Yeah. Mum 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 mum. I don't always do this, and I always pay for it at the end. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. I'm gonna lower the octave. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Mum 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 mum. Drum. Oh, these are the fun ones. Gotta. These are fun to do with my live 2D model because you could see my lips move, but alas. Nice. Goog. Goo 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 goo. Goo 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 goo. If we do the last part together, is it lip syncing? Ah. We're lip singing as well. Goo 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 Google. 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 Goo 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 goo. 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 Goo 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 goo. Goo 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 goo. We did it. We did our vocal warm-up, but let's do a couple tongue twisters to really get that enunciation. Enunciation. Oh no. She's having a stroke. Okay. I just googled some tongue twisters. I don't know if you guys have some either, but I'm gonna read some of these. So, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a Peter Piper. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Where's the peck of pickled peppers? Very, very big. Betty bought her butt some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So 'twas better. Betty bought a bit of better butter. Yaha. How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? If a woodchuck, he would as much as he could, and chuck as much as wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood. The parts that keep getting me, getting me are like these parts, like, but a bit of better butter will make my batter better, and like this part where it just completely doesn't follow, you know, the morpheme I'm trying to say. The batters. Betty bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So 'twas better Betty bought a bit of better butter for her batter. There you go. That actually adds a nice little like repetition in there that I like a lot. Seashells. She sells seashells by the seashore. How can a clam cram in a clean cream can? I like the unique New York. Oh wait. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't Fuzzy Wuzzy. The one I like is the unique New York. Where is it? Unique New York. Unique New York. I think longtime viewers probably remember did I teach you guys the Lemon Lion one? I feel like I should have even if it'll lag, I feel like I should have my 2D model for this one. I feel like it'll be a more immersive experience for that one. Okay, give me a second. And then if it lags again, we'll go back to PNG. Ready? Where is it? Give me a second. It's still loading in. It's still loading in. Give me a second. Ready? Trade places! There we go. We're back in live 2D mode. If it starts to lag again, we'll switch over to PNG. But I want to at least use this to teach you guys Lemon Lion, okay? So if you've never like done a public speaking class or like a drama class, I remember a friend who took was majoring in drama and stuff. She's the one that taught me this. But Lemon Lion basically is you want to imagine that you just took a bite out of lemon and you squeeze all your facial features together. So like you squeeze your eyes shut, you scrunch up your nose, and like, you know, you scrunch up your lips. It's almost like everything's all scrunched up. So lemon, you go like lemon, lemon. And then lion is the opposite, where you like open your eyes super wide, you open your mouth super wide, stick out your tongue, and you go and you like stretch every single part of your face. It's basically a face exercise. So you guys ready? Let's do it. So ready? Lemon, squeeze, so small. Lion, one more time. Lemon, squeeze. You just put it to a lemon, and then lion, Okay, one more. Lemon, squeeze. You're squeezing your face so tight, and then lion, Oh yeah, live 2D is definitely the best when it comes to that. But okay, I think I'm warmed up enough. I think it's time that we get started, shall we? There is a lot that I would love to yap about and share. I went back. I'm like really into the Digimon card game, you guys. I'm like so in it to win it. That actually felt good to do. Yeah, it does, right? Because it's literally like a facial just exercise, like a stretch, right? Wah. But yeah, and I also had my very first therapy session today. It was actually pretty cool. Well, she was just getting to know me, my new therapist, but there's that. And I had a dentist appointment, so I feel like I got a lot done today. I did cancel on a blood draw because I was also supposed to like draw blood today, but I just woke up like feeling like feeling like dead, dehydrated. So I postponed the appointment, but otherwise I did everything else I needed to do today. So yeah. Okay, now for realsies, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? So on Tuesday we were talking about the Olympus 12. This is a group of Digimon that is very heavily based on you know what, actually let me get we could review some slides real quick. No wait, that's the wrong one. Here we go. You can review real quick. We're talking about, here we go, the Dequincentus, the 12 Olympians. So we were looking at 12 Digimon that are very much based on the 12 Olympians. So we were looking at Zeus, Hera, Poseidon, is that it? Demeter, right? And a couple others like Pluto. So now we're actually going to continue the story. So if you guys want, so here on this picture over here, we went over Jupitermon, we went over Plutomon, who's over here in the background, Poseidon, Neptunemon, King of the Seas, right? And then if you remember, Jupitermon was kind of like the divine judge and executioner. Plutomon was kind of his like darker equivalent. Bartawolf, hello! Hello, we are talking about Digimon. We're talking about Digimon, digital monsters. We looked at Titamon, who's over here, right? Who's like kind of this manifestation, right, of the Titans. The ones who came before the Olympians and who fought the Olympians. We have Ceresmon. I didn't even notice that like there's a Sirenmon next to her too. You summon the cats. So yeah, there's Keresmon. Oh yeah, and that was another thing that like the names are a little bit different from English compared to other languages. So instead of this being pronounced Jupiter, it probably would have been Jupiter or Juno for Juno, right? We have Keres instead of Ceres or Ceres. So I'm gonna be kind of using the Greek and Roman names kind of interchangeably, unless we're talking about a Digimon, because the Digimon have like very specific names, right? But when I'm referring to the gods, I might say Zeus, I might say Jupiter, I might even say Jupiter, but it really depends. It really depends sometimes on the context. So another couple things that we talked about were this disclaimer about Greek and Roman like religious stories and mythology, and how there isn't a single canon, right? There is stuff that was codified and written down, but a lot of these come from like generations of like oral tradition that was finally written down. But even those like sources can vary depending on who wrote them down, right? So it won't be exhaustive, but I will try my best to kind of like identify when I can that like, oh yeah, this is Athenian, this is Spartan, blah blah blah. Talked a little bit how Greek and Roman deities are very similar to each other, but not always like exact copies, right? I think the example we gave, we'll go over into more detail later on, but like how Ares was seen as like foolish and dumb, smelly, stinky, and Mars, the Roman equivalent, was seen as like dignified and like a Chad, you know? So we are gonna see that, or we're gonna kind of talk about that when we talk about Marsmon, right? Mentions of essay, incest, and violence. Yeah, like, that's kind of how Greek and Roman mythology be, even Egyptian mythology as well. Coffin of Andy and Lele. I've heard of it. I have no intention to check it out, but I have heard. Yeah. And we talked a little bit about like the intro to Digimon, what that is. They're digital monsters. They're Tamagotchi for boys, or at least that's how they were initially marketed. They can digivolve, but then they can also de-digivolve and have multiple branching lines. the 12 Olympians. We talked a little bit about the whole origin story of like how according to Hesiod's Theogony, there was a story in which Cronus, he overthrew his father. Cronus is the god, the titan of harvest and time. He overthrew his father. He castrated him. He threw his testes into the water, and we're gonna come back to that story today. And then because he did that, Mother Earth was like, "Oh, you're gonna get yours. You're gonna get yours. Who the children that you beget, one of them's gonna overthrow you." So Cronus was just like, I better eat them. I better eat all my kids. So he did that, but he didn't succeed because Zeus was born. He overthrew his father, and that started his own line of the Olympians. So yes, so right, because Zeus would bang with anything with a pulse. Yeah, we're gonna get into that as well. The time that Zeus turned into water rained on women. I don't know if he turned into water, but he did turn into a golden shower. He did, in fact, turn into a golden shower. The woman's name was Danae. But yeah, we'll get a little bit into that as well, because we're continuing the family line. This is where we kind of left off on. We looked at Jupiter, the setting for the next Digimon game. We looked at Titamon, who is a manifestation of the Titans. We looked at Zeus and Jupiter. So this is going to be the format for the other Olympus 12. So we're going to start first with the Greco-Roman god, what they signify, and then we're going to look at the Digimon that is inspired by that Greco-Roman god. In this case, there's like Jupitermon or Jupitermon, as it would be pronounced in Japanese. And then we'll do also an analysis of them visually, but we might also touch into like how closely does this Digimon come to like the historical version, right? Like, is it like accurate to their original mythos or not? Yes, exactly, the mother of Perseus. So yeah, we looked at a little bit of that. So we looked at Neptunemon, we looked at Hades and Pluto, who isn't traditionally, Hades and Pluto aren't traditionally part of the 12 Olympians, but he's still pretty important, you know? So, and there's a Plutomon, which I thought was very apt, you know? Very apt to mention here. We looked at Kerismon, who has a very cool design. And then Unomon or Junomon, who also has a very cool design. So far, a lot of the Digimon that we've seen have aspects and designs that are pretty, I would say, like pretty close to the Greco-Roman gods that they were inspired by. So, you know, Unomon is like she's known to be like the wife to Zeus, the goddess of like mothers and women and matrimony and marriage and all that stuff. And Unomon seems to follow suit because she seems to be very supportive of Jupitermon. But then she has her hysteric mode that is like her whole thing is jealousy, right? Which very closely resembles like what happens in mythology. Usually Hera or is usually seen as like the jealous wife when Zeus goes around and and courts but also assaults plenty of men and women. Exactly, Bardawolf. So it definitely seems like the mythos as well. But we're gonna do like a bit of a deep dive into that. So we also talked about potential additions. So there isn't a Vestamon or a Prosperimon in Digimon yet, but I was just kind of brainstorming what that would look like. So that is basically where we left off. So with that, we're gonna be looking at what I'm going to be calling the children of Jupiter. So last time we looked at the children of Saturn or of Cronus. Now we're going to look at the children of Jupiter, Zeus, because he, as we mentioned before, he begat many children. Many children. And I think I mentioned this in our first stream, but one of the reasons, at least in like kind of a meta in-universe... Hello, Clyde. Hello. We're talking about Digimon and Greek and Roman mythology today. One of the reasons why that might be is to kind of, when it comes to, for example, kingship in history, like ancient Egypt is kind of a really good example, and also like medieval Europe, but usually you want to draw your lineage from someone either royal or even divine. So in ancient Egypt, it was common to say that you were the son of Horus, or you represented Horus the god, the sky god, right? So that way it legitimizes that monarch's rule. to say that like, oh, we were ordained by a god or a deity. Or in the case of medieval Europe, it's like we were we were ordained by God to rule, and that's why I can rule over you peasants, right? So in many ways you kind of see something similar with Greek and Roman tradition as well, but in this case they also want demigods and heroes essentially to draw lineage to Zeus. It's like, oh, no wonder they're so noble and they're so powerful. It's because they're the children of Zeus, right? It's very possible that some of these tales started off as like local stories. So maybe Hercules started off as a local story somewhere in the Greek peninsula, or archipelago rather. Maybe Perseus started out as its own story. And then as Greek tradition kind of spread around and became codified, then it was like, oh, Hercules? Yeah, he was the son of Zeus. He was the son of Zeus. Yeah, that's why he's so strong, you see. So I don't know for sure if this is what happened, but it seems like a likely explanation for why, like, you see so many, like, oh yeah, Zeus, procreated with this woman and this person and this person and this person, to kind of explain that phenomena. But at the same time, it could also be just an aspect of Zeus as a character. Yeah, sorry, I got like a work text, but it's after hours, so I'm not gonna answer that. Peg School, hello, welcome. Let me catch up on chat. Perseus is the one son he doesn't seem to hate. I watched a lot of OSP. Yeah, OSP is she's really good at talking about these topics, right? So, I've also been like a lifelong scholar of mythology and folklore. Some of what I'm talking about also comes from some of the courses I've taken in the past as well, but a lot of it does just stem from an interest, right? An interest in like these stories. I think I mentioned this in the first stream, but one of my first kind of introductions to Greek and Roman mythology was this book called D'Aulaire's Greek Myths, which is very mumuch a PG-13 retelling of the mythology. They cut out a lot of the like sussy-wussy stuff, a lot of the assaults, a lot of the kind of not so, you don't want a middle schooler like learning about that just yet, essentially. So yeah, almost some of them are also kind of like romanticized too. Really cool to think that someone's hometown hero became codified into what we know today. Exactly. So like if you imagine like exactly what Testosterone said, like your hometown story, you become integrated in like a bigger culture or even empire in the case of colonialism, and then someone is just like, oh, that hometown hero is probably the child of Zeus. But then you have to wonder like how their birth story gets incorporated into the mythos, right? A book that Zeus wrote? Wait, I already let me know what you were referring to. Cause I missed it. I missed what you were saying. Okay, I'm gonna flip my phone over because I'm getting work texts, and like I said, it's after hours. I'm not gonna be on a Friday. You expect me to answer this on a Friday? Come on now. Oh, the stories where he wasn't a creep. It's funny because oftentimes gods and goddesses have different aspects to themselves. You usually see this with what's called epithets, which are like titles, right? So last time we talked about how like one of Poseidon's titles is the Earth Shaker, right? So in some ways, like he might have been like an earth, an earth shaker deity, an underworld deity, as well as a water deity, and that's how you can kind of tell these different aspects. So there are stories where Zeus isn't a creep, but it's more likely because it's like a different aspect of him. It's a different epithet, or it's just a different side to him. And the reason why I bring this up is because we did a watch along, like a week ago, about Egyptian mythology. Yes, Dread Persephone. We're gonna talk, or I think we talked a little bit about that last time. But yeah, the idea of Kore, Despoina, Persephone Despoina, right? Where like she has an aspect that might have called back to like her role as the queen of the underworld, right? But the reason why I talk about aspects, and then we'll continue with the presentation we have here, is because there's a god in Egyptian mythology named Seth. Seth is the god of chaos. He's the god of the deserts. He is the opposite to Horus and Osiris, who are the gods of order, right? Ma'at. He's usually seen as like the bad guy, right? But depending on the region, depending on the time period, he might be the not so bad guy. And there are stories where he actually helps out Horus in getting rid of the snake of chaos, right? So yeah, it's that's what's kind of cool about like ancient mythology, ancient religious stories, because someone who might be a villain in one story might be the hero in another, and it all depends on time period. It depends on the region. You know, it's kind of like going back to what Testosterone said. Can you imagine if your hometown hero, like in another part of the world, is like, oh, you worship Binkalese? She is actually a villain in our story. So yeah, I think that, I don't know, that it's that kind of complexity that I really like about religious stories. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get into the swing of things, shall we? So we're now continuing the family tree. Now we have the children of Jupiter. Almost all of the deities we're going to be going over today are in the mythology, at least, and in some forms of the mythology, are the children of Zeus. Because Zeus did sleep around with other women and bore many children. That actually includes, the first person that we're going to concentrate on today is Aphrodite, or Aphrodite, as they would say in like the Greek pronunciation. So let me see if I have my laser pointer here. Oh no, that means I can't see chat for a little bit, but that's okay. So, as you can see, so Zeus had a wife, Hera, and they actually did have 2 children together. They actually had multiple children, but the only ones we're going to focus on for today are going to be Ares, also known as Mars, and Hephaestus, also known as Vulcan. Ares is the god of warfare and violence, or like the violent part of war. We're going to see another war goddess, but she was more so on like the strategy side of things. And then Hephaestus is the god of forge and fire. And then we also have Aphrodite, who in some versions of the story, okay, let's rewind a bit. Remember how I said there was a god named Kronos, and he castrated his father Ouranos. Those testes landed in the ocean, and in some versions of the story, that actually those balls those balls become a goddess whose name is Aphrodite, also known as Venus, who's the goddess of love and passion. In other versions of the story, however, she is the daughter of Zeus and another goddess named I think is it Dione? But yeah, it really does depend on the source. So in some sources, she's born from testicles, and in other versions, she is Zeus's child. So with that, she could be lumped into that square that says children with other women. But other than that, we also have Athena, who is why isn't my cursor showing up? You know what? Let me do something real quick. Let me just make sure that I can see your guys' chat messages here. All right, and then I'm gonna go ahead and go to presentation. Okay, so we also have Athena. She's the goddess of wisdom and strategy. We have Hermes, also known as Mercury, the god of crossroads, thieves, and many other things. We have Dionysus, also known as Bacchus, who is the god of wine, but also madness and revelry and all that wild stuff. And then we have the twins Apollo and Artemis, also known as Diana. And then Apollo kind of has the same name in Greek and Roman tradition. Sometimes you see him as Apollon with an N at the end, but don't confuse that for like, oh, this is the Greek and this is the Roman version. They both kind of called him Apollo. But yeah, so Apollo and Artemis are twins, and they are in many ways the opposite of each other. So like, Apollo was the god of the sun, Artemis was the goddess of the moon, and Apollo has to do with like poetry, music, civilization, whereas Artemis is more about the wilderness and hunting. So we're gonna get to them in a bit, but we're also gonna get to the gods and goddesses that the members of the Digimon, the Olympus 12 Digimon, that are inspired by these gods and goddesses. So let's go ahead and go on first to Venusmon, or Aphrodite. Let's go with Aphrodite first. So she's an interesting one. If you guys are fans of OSP, like some of you have mentioned, Overly Sarcastic Production, she did a really cool video on Aphrodite and her various epithets. So her various titles, because sometimes there's Aphrodite of the divine, and there's Aphrodite of the people, and then there's Aphrodite of the war. So it's very interesting in that aspect. So we have here, oh, Glitched, hello, Glitch Mushroom, welcome, welcome. We're continuing our conversation about Digimon and Greek and Roman goddesses. So we have Aphrodite, also known as Aphrodite, and her Roman name is Venus. And she is the goddess of passionate love and lust and procreation and beauty. So she's the goddess of love in like many ways. You're talking about Greek mythology? Yeah. And Digimon. That's where I learned about, yeah, Dread Persephone. Yes, exactly. So yeah, she is the goddess of love, but kind of like different aspects of love. So there's, you know, there's different kinds of love. There's like a love that you have for friends. There's love that you have for family. There's love that you might have for a significant other, but then there might be erotic love for a significant other. There might be, you know, the more meaningful or like, what's it called? Soulful love, right? Have you gone into the mystery cults? Like I said, this isn't going to be a deep dive because it's going to be centered on Digimon. This isn't going to be exhaustive. Otherwise, this is going to be longer than it already is. But I am aware of the mystery cults. I do think they're cool. We do have a couple of hymns that are of like Orphic, you know, Orphic origin. But I just don't have enough time to go really exhaustive, you know? Because this is already going to be long enough, I'll be honest with you. You love Greek mythology so much? Nice. Or no, you know so much about Greek mythology. Nice. Cool. 100% of a gambler quit before winning. There's the love that Zeus has for various animals. Yes. It's funny because I brought it up in like one of the Digimon discords that I'm in, that like I'm surprised we don't have more like Digimon lines where it's based off some of the animals that Zeus has become. So like the bull, the golden shower, the what else has he been? The swan, right? The hawk, the eagle. At BINKA Community College and Daycare. The classics department doesn't have the funding for a whole minor. I know, right? But yeah, so this is Aphrodite. She's the goddess of passionate love. So like I said, she can either be the daughter of Zeus and Dione, the Titaness, or she's born from sea foam, from the severed testes of Oranos, the sky god. So she's also the mother to someone named Eros, also known as Cupid, the, you know the one, the little baby that shoots arrows and stuff. Except in the mythology, he's not usually shown as a baby. He's usually shown as like a fully grown adult with wings. But she also mothers many children. Of course, she's the goddess of love. She's going to be getting added many a time. And yeah, she does have multiple epithets. She has multiple titles. So this can include Genetrix, Areia, meaning like Aphrodite of the war, Uraina, which is like Aphrodite of like the divine, Pandemos is Aphrodite of the people. And she has some possible origins with the cult of Astarte and Ishtar. So these are two goddesses from Mesopotamia, like Assyria, Babylonia, etc. So she might actually have some associations with them, because those figures are also pretty sick, pretty awesome, because they're not only the goddesses of love in their respective religions, they're also the goddesses of war. So it's a really cool kind of contrast between those, which is why you have figures like Aphrodite Areia, because it's like, oh, what does war have to do with love, right? Where it's like, no, they can be two sides of the same coin, you know. So a lot of her stories include her granting love as a favor or punishing those who forsake love. So what that means is you'll usually have a figure in mythology who's like, I never want to marry, I want to remain a virgin forever, blah, blah, blah. And Aphrodite takes that personally. She's like, how dare you? How dare you forsake love? Arrows, shoot them with the arrow. Reverse horny jail. Yeah, she's just like, what do you mean asexual? I hate you. So there's that. She's also arguably one of the starts of the Trojan War. If you guys don't know how that story goes, there was There was a goddess named Eris. She's the goddess of strife, and she loves causing trouble. And she trolled the goddesses by throwing a golden apple at their feet and was like, "Oh, that's for the fairest, the most beautiful goddess." And 3 different goddesses reached for it, and they're like, "Why are you reaching for it?" She said, "For the fairest, and I'm the fairest." And Aphrodite was one of them. The other 2 were Minerva, Athena and Hera. And then they were like, you know what? Let's decide this by having a random guy, a random dude, just decide this for us. And then they went up to this random dude. I believe he was Paris, right? They asked him like, okay, which one of us do you think is the fairest? Which one of us do you think is beautiful? By the way, if you vote for me, I'll give you a gift. So I think Athena was like, I'll give you, you know, like military might. Hera was like, I will give you, I forgot what she promised him, maybe like a kingdom. And then Aphrodite was like, I'm gonna give you the most beautiful woman in the world. And for some reason, instead of military might and a whole kingdom, he was like, yeah, I'll have the girl. I'll have the woman. And then someone was like, but she's already married. And Aphrodite's like, too bad. She chose me. He chose me. Anyway, here's your woman. Later. And then thus started the Trojan War. So, yeah, so she, because of, like, of her role as like a love goddess, and she kind of reflects how love can be very fickle, it can be very dramatic, it can be very catastrophic in many ways. So that's her, that's Aphrodite, that's Venus. And then as Venus specifically, because once again, Greek and Roman gods are usually very similar, but they're not always 100% the same. As Venus, she was honored as the ancestor of a figure named Aeneas, who is one of those like kind of mythological figures that started the Roman Empire. Like how she cheated on Hephaestus. Yeah, we're actually going to get to that because we do also have a Digimon based off Hephaestus. We have one based off Ares, so we'll talk about him, and we have one based off Hephaestus as well. But yes, so Aphrodite also cheats on her husband a lot. So my Carthaginian homies hate Rome. So let's go ahead and compare to the Digimon. We have Venusmon over here, and here she is definitely a bit nerfed. Her personality is a little bit more palatable to a wider audience, but let's go ahead and take a look at her. So her name is Venusmon, but if you look at the Japanese katakana and you know how to read it, it actually reads as Uenusomon. Uenusomon. So Venusmon. Which is a little bit closer to how it would have been pronounced in Latin. I guess depending on like which version of Latin, but it would have been Venus. But I predict that many English speakers would say Venusmon, right? So she's a mega level vaccine type. She debuted in 2012 with a game called Digimon World Redigitize. And she governs beauty and purity. Note that it doesn't say love. It says beauty and purity, but it might be because Digimon, they don't, I don't know if they could fall in love, like, or at least romantic love. They definitely don't procreate because their whole shtick is their data, when they die, it just gets reborn. So it's almost like they reproduce asexually in a way, but it's weird to think about that because they're data. They're data. But yeah, I just noticed that like it doesn't say that she's the goddess of love, but it does say she's the goddess of beauty and purity. So she is usually blindfolded here. And when she does that, her bio seems to imply that she can unblindfold herself. She can show her eyes. But when she is blindfolded, she reduces her glamour effect. So she has this effect of like everyone loves her or everyone adores her when she's able to show her eyes. But this seems to imply that she nerfs herself on purpose. But by blindfolding herself, she's able to see people's inner beauty. So it doesn't matter if you are like ugly on the outside, she can see your inner beauty. So this probably applies to Digimon as well, whereas like there's some Digimon that are like, ugh, what the heck? So like say a Numemon, even though I love them, a Sukamon or an Ogremon, right? They might not look conventionally attractive, but Venusmon might be the kind of person that's like, oh, you're beautiful just the way you are. They really made her the goddess of say-so. Exactly. Digimon emerged from the heads of their creators. Exactly. A make crack vicious mode fell for a human male, but there were a lot of issues. Was that in Ghost Game? Why does that sound familiar? So Venusmon also has two companions. There's Olive the dove, which she's holding over here, and then she has Hoten the scallop. So these are both references to Aphrodite's traditional symbols. So the dove is one of her symbols, to the point where I guess content warning for animal violence. If that's something that is not okay with you, feel free to come back in about a minute or so. But I will say it in 3, 2, 1. During festivals in Aphrodite or Venus's name, usually they would sacrifice a lot of doves. So that really shows that that was indeed her symbol. The scallop is actually a reference to usually it is said that she lands on a certain island. I forgot which island, but if you guys have seen that one painting, this one over here, The Birth of Venus, she's usually shown on a shell. This one too. So it's said that when she arrives on the island, she is on a shell. And that's why the scallop over here is another one of her like companions. Hoten, by the way, I believe that comes from the Japanese word for scallop. So in battle, in terms of like when she fights people, she doesn't directly fight, like she doesn't have her fists or nothing. She actually focuses on incapacitating her opponent and just taking away their entire drive to fight. So for example, she can either blow a kiss, she can give people head pats, it gives them it takes away their fighting spirit, or if she really has to fight, she will send Olive at them. Olive, the little dove, is the one that just pecks the opponent to death, but she herself doesn't directly fight, which I think matches pretty well with her whole like role as like the goddess of love, beauty, and purity in this case. If you think about it, Venus herself probably wouldn't have fought. She would use her sun to shoot arrows at people and like avoid conflict that way, but I don't think she's often shown like directly fighting, right? Her seafoam shell, yeah. Dove, I choose you. Go, bird. So yeah, that's basically how she fights, indirectly, but also with her bird. So let's talk. Oh yeah, I forgot about this. So let's go ahead and take a look at her design. So she was also possibly designed by someone named Moriyama So. She is the most like well, not most, but like almost all of the Olympus 12 are what's called anthropomorphic or human shaped. Almost all of them. Hold on, I'm going to it's just getting dark in my room. I have to turn on the lights, or else it's gonna get scary. Okay, lights on. Clap on. So she is completely anthropomorphic. But what's notable is that she doesn't really have any armor. She has a little bit. She has some. Let's actually go back. She has some on her wrists and her shins, but she doesn't really need them. Once again, she doesn't really fight directly, right? And she wears a completely white outfit that shows a lot of her organic body, which is, symbolic of this whole idea of like purity and beauty. Could include erotic love is what I put here. Let's focus on what I put over here. Aphrodite Kalipigos. This basically means... Wait till you see Sister Mon. I've seen Sister Mon. Like, I'm very, very Digimon pilled. I've definitely seen. So, this banner is there for a reason, because Aphrodite Kalipigos, this is another one of Aphrodite's epithets. It basically means Aphrodite of the beautiful ass. Aphrodite of the of the nice buttocks. So Sister Mon is a Digimon that looks like a nun, basically. So yeah, there's different ones too. There's like Sister Mon Black, Sister Mon Blue. But I think they're known by like their French name, so like Ciel, right? But yeah, so this pose right here seems to be a direct reference to Aphrodite Kalipigos. So Aphrodite of the cute butt. Of the nice firm buttocks. So I just thought that was a neat bit of fan art. Yeah, it could just be, maybe it's not a direct reference, maybe it is just fan service, but come Come on, I feel like it's a fair reference. Like the one goddess that has an epithet that has to do with her ass. Like, come on. I mean, come on. So yeah, she has a little bit of armor, and then what's another cool thing is she has an apple. She has an apple on her necklace. This seems to be a direct reference to what's called the Apple of Discord. I don't mean Discord, the chatting platform. That word has existed before that platform was a thing. Discord used to mean basically strife. So like suffering, strife, bad things. And it's a reference to that story that I told you guys, how the Eris, the goddess of strife, was like, oh, this apple is for the fairest, right? So this seems to be a reference to that. It could also be a reference possibly to like Adam and Eve and the whole idea of like purity and stuff like that. But that might be a reach. Apples are traditionally seen as the fruit of the Garden of Eden, but apparently, I learned about this in my biblical studies class as well. It might have not been an apple. It would have been more likely either a fig or a date. I mean, it is Digimon, yeah. Mythologically accurate fan service. Exactly, Testosterone, exactly. The statue was totally ancient fan service. I know, it was like, can you imagine ancient peoples being like, yes, I do love the Aphrodite Kalipigos. I will make a statue to show my faith and my worship. And people were just like, you're such a gooner. A mishmash chaos god. Yeah. So like chaos is another way to say it as well in terms of like Discord. So this could be a reference to that, which is a pretty funny symbol to include on her because she's generally known as like very peaceful, very like innocent and beauty. She sees the inner beauty in all people. But this little apple shows that maybe she has a little bit of a more selfish side to her, just like her mythological counterpart, right? Aphrodite is my Oshi. My Kami Oshi. Literally Kami Oshi. So, it is Digimon. That's true. Maybe Discord will be more incorporated in Digimon now that it's an official thing, right? Her blindfold also recalls the maximum. Oh yeah, love is blind, right? Basically, Venus and Aphrodite are meant to be symbols of love. How, like, joyful it could be, how lovely it could be, but also how, like, terrible and catastrophic it can also be. So that's basically what her deal is, but also the whole blindfold thing could be like love is blind. Sometimes you fall in love with people like no matter what they look like, right? So I think that's pretty neat. But yeah, that's Venusmon. Let's see if there's anything else I forgot. Yeah, so far we haven't seen any other sides to her. Like, you know how we were talking about different epithets? So we have Aphrodite of the war, Aphrodite the divine, Aphrodite of the people. So far we're not seeing that, but we don't have too many things with her in it. Maybe Time Stranger, the new Digimon game, will give her a little bit more dimension. But for now, she's just a nice say-so goddess. And now, on the other side of things, we talked about love, now let us talk about war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. So let's talk about Ares. Ares, also known as Mars, this is the god of battle, war, brutality, bloodlust, courage, valor, and later, of Rome. So this is the guy that I was talking about at the very beginning. He is typically shown as like humiliated because he is a symbol of war, and war was something that was like, like it sucks that it's necessary. Like it's necessary, but it's like, it's messy and it's senseless, right? So the Greeks saw it that way, or certain Greek population saw it that way. But for the Romans, they're like, no, war is military excellence. It's how you show that you are a true adult and warrior, is by going to war, right? So they saw Ares as a fool, but they would have seen Mars as someone dignified, right? It's funny. This art is pretty entertaining because excuse me. I burped again. Actually, let's rewind a little bit. So Ares is the son of Zeus and Hera, along with his brother Hephaestus. But he's also a lover to Aphrodite. And I say extramarital because that's not her husband, y'all. That's not her husband. She has a husband. We're gonna get to him. Poor guy. But Ares and Aphrodite would often, you know, bump nasties together. In fact, this piece of art right here, this fresco, I cut it off so you couldn't see it, but he's basically groping her, and she's kind of just like there for it. She's kind of just like, ah, yes, another day. But he's like actively groping her breast, so yeah, that is totally a thing. His sacred symbols include the wolf, the woodpecker, and later, the dog and the vulture. They were so bloodthirsty, they were upset Fabian kept them alive through his namesake tactics. Oh, we have an ad break already. Which is good, because I already need to rest my voice. We're only 2 gods in! Oh no. I'm already starting to... I need to just hydrate. I need to hydrate. So how about this? Before we keep on talking about Ares and Mars, let's go ahead and go to the cup corner. I'm floating! There you go. We're gonna go ahead and do our ad break, but I'll see you guys afterwards. I'm gonna get some water, and then we'll continue from where we left off. Thanks for stopping by, Peck School. I appreciate ya. Oh my gosh. I had some Thai food today, some like crab fried rice. I still have some left over. I was eating it just now and I'm like, oh, I'm in heaven. I'm in heaven. Let's go ahead and get back to it, shall we? Let's get back to it. What were we talking about? We were talking about Mars, yeah, and then and Barwolf was talking about they were so bloodthirsty they were upset Fabian kept them alive through his namesake tactics. That one I'm actually not super familiar with, so feel free to put in a little bit more detail if you want. But yeah, like, it's not that all of Greece was like, I hate war, you know, but that's just like one of many ways that they saw him as, like, especially in comparison to like Rome, you know. So wait, what happened? I heard a Shiopi, hello, welcome. We're still talking about Digimon and Greek and Roman mythology. So let's take a look at Marsmon. So this is the equivalent in Digimon to Ares or Mars. So actually this is one of the oldest members of, not oldest, so like he was created in 2002. I think that puts him and Neptunemon as like one of the oldest Digimon of the Olympus 12. So once again, all of these Digimon were made at completely different times. So Venusmon was created in 2012, Marsmon was created 10 years earlier, 2002. So yeah. Let's see. Rin, hello. Welcome. Fabian's strategy was basically guerrilla warfare, focusing on scorched earth to deny the enemy resources. Ah, think of Napoleon in Russia. Yeah, you know me so well, too. It's like, she would probably understand it if I said Napoleon, and I do. Totally do. Fabian stuck to avoiding major battles, sticking to attacking supply lines and smaller skirmishes. Ah, I see. Pretty interesting. Yeah, hello, Rin. Hello. Yeah, we're continuing our conversation about Digimon. So yeah, Marsmon was created 10 years earlier than Venusmon was. And in some ways you can kind of see it. But okay, so the reason why I say that is because a lot of the Digimon that were created earlier, I feel don't quite match their mythological counterparts. It's the ones that are created a little bit later. So Venusmon matches up with Venus a little bit more closely. Jupitermon and Juno match up with Jupiter and Junomon, etc. But Neptunemon, and later on we're gonna see Mercurymon and Minervamon, very much like are very different interpretations of the gods and goddesses. So Marsmon's not so bad though, because he's still like a glory-loving fighter. He has very interesting symbolism. Well, he has an interesting design, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But he does fight, but he usually sticks to hand. So he fights with his fists and his knees. So he uses his Tria knuckles or his metal cothurnus, which is a kind of boot. So he uses his hands and feet. But he also uses his bare hands and feet, and then his ultimate attack is a flaming aerial assault. So very, very similar to like wrestling, right? It's a wrestling. This slightly, so what did I put here? It kind of contrasts with Ares and Mars, because usually Ares and Mars is usually shown with weaponry. Usually with some kind of spear, lance, with shields. But I still think this matches up pretty well, because he's still a fighter and he still loves glory and he still uses whatever battle tactics he can, right? To fight. It would be very unlike Mars if he was just a pacifist. If he was like, you know, like I'm not a fighter, you know. I've seen that before in different mythologies, but usually we're seeing like a grizzled old version of Ares who's like the usual like war has changed, you know, like that kind of Ares. But if we're thinking of Ares in his prime, then yeah, I would imagine someone like Marsmon, who is like very apt to very down to fight, even if it has to be with his bare hands. Exactly, Matthew, with bare hands. Pickles, hello. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at his design. This is a panel from Digimon Crusader. Oh yeah, so his design is a little different from some of the other gods. He was possibly designed by someone named Archimedes. So I know this looks like a random assortment of symbols, but it does read as Archimedes. Not the historical Archimedes, a Japanese artist named Archimedes. but hello, Pickles, welcome. So as you can see, he has anthropomorphic features. Arguably, he has the least amount of armor though. The only person that I can imagine having less armor than him might be either Mercurymon, Bacchusmon, and Venusmon. But even Venusmon has, like, as you guys saw, she has armor on her shins and on her arms. He does have a little bit of armor. He has his legs and his arms, and then he has like something over here on his crotch for some reason. Looks like it's like a necklace but around his waist. But that might also be to emphasize the fact that, like, he doesn't need armor to be a fighter, you know, especially since, like, his whole shtick is fighting with his fists and his bare feet. But if you notice, he has human features with his mouth, but the top of his head looks like a Gabumon or an Ikakumon even, because it has these tusks and the horn. So it's very interesting because in terms of, like, his symbols, he doesn't really have, like, anything that would resemble something like, hello, local feline. Nice to meet you. Glad to have you in the class. Welcome, welcome. We're talking about Digimon and the Olympus 12 today. And Greco-Roman mythology. So if you take a look at his design, it's like, it kind of looks like a Gabumon, kind of like an Ikakumon with the tusk, Gabumon with the horn. But he also has some, like, human features as well. Different coloring, definitely. And then he has leopard print on his head and on his pants. And then his cape, I forgot to write this down, but his cape also has a little bit of animal print to it. So this might be to give him some kind of, like, wild feeling, that he's just like he's just so wild in his fighting style, right? And then he does have this kind of form-fitting red top. And once again, this could be kind of a way to show that, like, he doesn't need armor. He's the god of war. He could fight naked if he wants to. And if you look at Athenian pottery, he sometimes does. But yeah, so I think that's a pretty cool thing. Love the pro wrestler vibe he has compared to the others. Yeah, exactly. Well, like, especially some of the earlier ones, there's definitely an emphasis on, like, armor. Let's see if I can find so, like, armor here with, like, Junomon, armor with Charismon, armor with Plutomon, and Jupitermon's even, like, completely covered in armor. You get to the god of war, who you would expect to have the most armor, and yet he doesn't. He doesn't need it, you know? But yeah. So yeah, that's a little bit about Marsmon. He is a character just like a couple of the others of the Olympus 12. He can be seen in a game called Digimon Crusader, where it's this one, Aegeomon, fighting up against a bunch of different Olympus 12 Digimon. And, you know, it's very obvious that he's there for the fight. He's there for the thrill. What a thrill. Okay, so moving right along. The next god that we have is Hephaestus. So, we were talking a little bit about Venus, right? Venus and Aphrodite. So, she often bumps uglies with Ares, but that's not her husband. Her husband is this guy, Hephaestus. So, this is Ares' brother. So, he's the god of fire, including both the destructive and fertilizing qualities. But he's also god of volcanoes because it said that his forge is in a volcano. He's the god of metallurgy, of metal making, of artisans, of blacksmiths, of carpenters. Basically people who work with their hands, right? He is another son of Zeus and Hera, but in some stories, we're going to get to... So sometimes Zeus... How should I say this? There's a story in which Hephaestus is the son of Hera and Hera herself. This is because in another story, Zeus produces his own daughter by himself. We're going to get to that story. That's Minerva. That's Athena. But Hera, in her jealousy, is like, oh yeah, you can make a child by yourself? Guess what? I can do it too. And she creates Hephaestus. However, in some of the mythology, the joke's on her because he's either born disfigured or club-footed, or he becomes that way later on in life. There's different stories as to how that happens. Sometimes he's born ugly, and Hera just can't bear to even look at him, so she throws him off of Mount Olympus. In another story, Zeus and Hera are fighting, and Hephaestus sides with his mother, so Zeus is the one that throws him off of Mount Olympus, and he falls for an entire day. In some stories, he lands in the ocean, and that causes his, like, he's otherwise, like, he's usually shown as disabled in some way. So in some mythologies he's born that way, and in some mythologies it's the result of like injuries. But sometimes he's noted to be ugly, but I don't usually see like I have to look at more art of him. But the art of him doesn't usually show him as disfigured. It's usually just like he's physically disabled. Sometimes he's shown in like a proto wheelchair. And what's interesting about that is that he is really skilled. While he can't really move his feet that well, he can move his hands really well. So well that he creates like different weapons and armor, and even robots, by the way, automatons. So you might be saying like, what, robots in ancient Greece or ancient Rome? Yeah. I want you guys to take a look at or look up this idea of automatons, of like just machines that move by themselves. This is something that like people have discussed in ancient times. There's even ancient like Japanese toys that could resemble robots in a way. They're literally like automatons, right? Hephaestus is one of my favorite Greek gods. He's always depicted as a cool dude. Yeah. I agree. He's usually depicted as a cool dude, though. In doing research for this and like looking up some of his stories, there is there was a one story that I found out literally just like as I was researching this. I was like, oh my god, he did that. That's kind of gross, man. I won't go into it here, but I'll leave it up to you guys to do your research. But yeah, usually kind of like with Pluto, kind of like with Hades, even though there is like a section of stories where it's like, oh, that's not good. In comparison to other gods, he is pretty chill. He's pretty chill. Yeah, the karakuri, yes, Bardo Wolf, exactly. Those are like the little Japanese like robot dolls. Might be outside the scale to ask, but does this depiction potentially reveal anything about how these societies saw disabled individuals? That's kind of a really good question, because you see, sometimes you definitely see people with disabilities depicted in ancient art, but that doesn't always tell us how they were seen. Like, for example, in Mesoamerica, you do see a lot of art of people with dwarfism. I think in those cultures, they do usually honor people with dwarfism. But you also never know if they're being depicted to honor people with disabilities or people with like a, you know, with a certain, like with a certain disability, or if it's like to mock them or just to show that they were in society, right? Because I don't know if I've seen it for sure, but I feel like I've seen art in which Hephaestus is in basically a proto, oh, nice, local feline. You got your sniffer sticker, your 1 point redeem. You know what? I think Matthew might have a little bit more feedback on this. So yeah, like it says here, the Greeks and Romans viewed beauty as being blessed by the gods. So does that mean that if someone was ugly, it means that they were not blessed, or that they're cursed or something? But yeah, that's actually an excellent question, Testosterodile. It's a really good one. So I can't say for sure, but I feel like I've definitely seen Hephaestus in like a proto wheelchair. Yeah, nice. Yeah, local feline. We have our 1 point sniffer sticker. They're all based off of Filipino treats. So I'm glad you were able to get one. Oh yeah, and another thing is Hephaestus also created Pandora, who is the first woman. She was the first woman, but she was made as a punishment to men, which really, really shows how people saw women back then. But yeah, so that's Hephaestus, also known as Vulcan in his Roman name. Now let's look at Volcanismon, or as the katakana would say here, this is Wuru. No wait, is this Wa or Wu? I think this is Warukunusmon. Warukanusumon. So a little bit closer to Vulcanus, with like a W sound. So he is a really interesting one. I really like his design, actually, and I really like I don't know, a lot of the things about his design. But let's go into a little bit of his bio. So he, just like his counterpart, he makes a lot of fine quality weapons, but only to those worthy to wield them. So for example, if you're familiar with Beelzemon, he's the one with the guns. He's the one with the guns. So Volcanismon made the guns. So he's known for doing that. And kind of like with Venusmon, he doesn't always directly battle, because he creates the weapons, but he is able to actually instantly create weapons with each of his 8 arms, which is pretty cool. I am also gonna say something about like the naming scheme of his attacks. Pinpoint weapon works, appropriate works. It kind of reminds me. I'm actually gonna say this in the next slide. Kind of reminds me of Shiro from the Fate franchise. But before we get into that, let me read chat. I forget their name. But there was an account of a woman who used her beauty as a legal defense. When brought to testify, she exposed her breasts and claimed that she could not be unvirtuous as the gods have blessed her. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, so I kind of love that. I kind of love how you can kind of see a bit of a narrative just by looking at something like court documents, like ancient Roman court documents, where it's like, what do you mean? What do you mean she pled not guilty because of her bodacious body, you know? Okay, cool. I just had to double check something, but Judge Jury, would a guilty person have these? So yeah, Clyde Caulfield, yes, 100%. I feel like he is such an homage to Emiya, to Shiro Emiya from the Fate franchise, because the name of his attacks, they end in works. Oops. Pinpoint weapon works, appropriate works, unlimited blade works. Like, I am the bone of my sword. So before we get to that, let's do a little bit more analysis. As you can see, I had a lot to say about this guy. So let's go ahead and take a look at his design. So overall anthropomorphic, but what's really noticeable is here, the top of his head, he has a lot of machinery and 4 pairs of arms. So here's 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 pair, and then all the way in the back, 4 pairs of arms. So he's kind of like an octopus. And all of them have different crafting tools or weapons. So in these hands, he has swords. This looks like a mallet. He has these tongs and this hammer, and he has a mace all the way in the back. So he is capable of fighting, but his main shtick is making the weapons, right? And something else that's really kind of cool as well is the bottom hip. His bottom half is more Japanese. It looks a little bit more Japanese, like something that you would see on like a warrior or a samurai or even a ninja, right? Like the legs are long, but they're kind of bound like this. It's really interesting because you don't really see Japanese clothes or iconography in too many of the other Olympus 12, with the exception of Neptunemon, right? Neptunemon has like Japanese style armor, but the lower half over here is very Japanese, right? Is he an alchemist by chance? Ooh. It's funny. I was just thinking about Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist. Oh yeah, so his top half is encased in like an egg-shaped thing. And he has an oxygen mask. Maybe I was thinking maybe it's to protect his face during like the process of like him making the weaponry, right? But it might also go into this also goes into like why his face is a little bit bandaged, as you might be able to see here, is that this might actually be a reference to Hephaestus, right? So Hephaestus was both disabled, and in some mythos he is also disfigured. So maybe this is a reference to that, especially because like oftentimes Hephaestus is called ugly, where like the art doesn't really show it though. like this is definitely a later piece of artwork. This looks like it could be Renaissance, but like these statues and this one, he doesn't really look ugly, but you know. What do I know? It could be that like the way that they show ugliness is different, but I was thinking of Dez's arms. Oh, I see, that's what you're saying. Oh man, maybe he has a knack for potion making. Hecate, goddess of magic. That'd be cool. That would be another god that I would want to see becoming a Digimon. So yeah, maybe references to other gods or goddesses, but is Hecate, once again, I know that you might know you might know more than me in certain regards when it comes to like Greek and Roman stuff, but is there any connection with Hecate and Hephaestus? Because I think I've more seen her associated with like Hades, Persephone, Demeter, right? Because I think Hecate, is she one of the goddesses that goes with Demeter when Persephone's kidnapped, I think? But yeah, you know, could be. Have you played Hades 2? I haven't, not yet. I played Hades 1, but But I know that Hecate is one of the goddesses that is a figure in Persephone's story. But yeah, and then lastly, going back to what I was saying. Come on, Unlimited Blade Works, Shiro Emiya. If you guys don't know, there's a figure in the Fate franchise called Emiya. His body is also used as an avatar for Senji Muramasa, the famous sword maker. And his whole power is he's able to instantly create swords, and it's called Unlimited Blade Works. And Hephaestus, like Vulcanismon over here, he can instantly create weapons. The name of the ability is Pinpoint Weapon Works and Appropriate Works, and Shiro's ability is Unlimited Blade Works. Like, come on. Like, come on. Coincidence? I think not. But yeah, I just thought that was neat. I just thought that was a really cool detail. That, like, this is kind of an overt reference to him. And I don't know if, like, any other of the Olympus 12 have, like, an overt reference to, like, someone outside of, like, mythology, right? So, yeah, I just think that's neat. Wait, give me a second. Okay, I thought my internet had gone out for a second, but no, we're good. Technically, Unlimited Blade Works is his reality marble, which acts as his forge. The weapon creation is a projection of magecraft, and he makes copies of weapons. Yeah, like, that's kind of the specifics of it, but ostensibly, right? If we're talking about, like, just, like, a very simple explanation, it is, like, you know, instantly creating weapons. It is a reality marble. It's not, you know, like, it's just kind of, like, similar when you kind of, like, ostensibly, like, at first glance, you know what I mean? But yeah, so now we are moving on to Athena, also known as Minerva. So this is an interesting one. This is going to be an interesting comparison because Athena, let's start with, like, the historical, cultural, mythological figure. So she is the goddess of wisdom and battle strategy, but also crafts and weaving. And then she's also the patron deity of the city of Athens, which is kind of like a big deal when it comes to Greek and Roman history. Or no, Greek history. But yeah, she is usually contrasted with Ares. So Ares, once again, he's more of like the bloodlust part of war, the senseless part of war. She is the more dignified part of war, the strategy, the mindfulness of it all. So she is an interesting one because, like, a lot of her stories are just also very very detailed. She's the daughter of Zeus and a titaness named Metis. So she represents her mother Metis represents counsel and deep thought. In some versions of the origin story with Zeus, Metis helps Zeus with getting Cronus to expel the rest of his siblings. So she actually is the brains of the operation. However, so let's go ahead and rewind. Do you guys remember Cronus? He overthrew his father, and then Cronus himself was overthrown by Zeus. So it would make sense if someone was to overthrow Zeus, right? So that's actually what had happened. That's actually what was prophesied. Mother Earth, Gaia, she told Zeus, you're gonna get yours someday. Your child is going to overthrow you. And Metis happened to be Zeus's first wife or first consort. So when Zeus heard this, he was like, okay, so whoever Metis gives birth to is gonna whip my butt. So I gotta stop that. I gotta make sure that doesn't happen. So Zeus challenges Metis to a transformation duel. He just challenges her to, like, a fight of, like, transformations, basically. So they each transform into different things. So, like, you know, this isn't the exact ones, but just imagine, like, oh, I transform into a cat. Oh, yeah, I transform into a dog. Oh, yeah, I transform into an elephant. Like, that kind of thing, right? You can see how this could get childish really quick, where it's like, oh, yeah, I transform into something with infinity power +1. You can't beat me. Oh, yeah, well, I transform into infinity power +2. So something like that. However, at one point Metis becomes a fly, or she becomes like a small, like, insect, basically. And Zeus inhales her. No, you're not supposed to inhale. You're not supposed to hold it in, Zeus. He inhales her. He swallows her up. He absorbs her essence, basically. In other stories, he doesn't swallow her. He just absorbs her essence, and he thinks that's the end of it. However, Metis was pregnant when this happened. So all the while Metis was living inside of Zeus's head, and eventually she gives birth. But this isn't really a problem for Zeus until later on, when he just gets this pounding headache. He's like, this hurts so much. This hurts so much. Someone just smashed my head wide open. And then Hephaestus actually is the one who obliges, right? He smashes his father's head open, and out comes Athena, who is fully formed. She's fully grown, and she's fully armored, showing that wisdom is never in its infancy, right? Wisdom is always fully formed, right, from the brain, right from a skull, right? So it's very symbolic. Her birth is very symbolic. However, one thing that always, like, I think this is kind of like a weird, like, situation is, do you remember how back when I said, like, oh, Athena was born from Zeus himself, and then Hera got jealous and made Hephaestus? If that's the case, then who split open Zeus's head? Because the whole thing is like, oh, Hephaestus is the one that splits open Zeus's head so that Athena can be born, but then Hera gets jealous and then she creates Hephaestus, who was already there? That might just be a case of, like, once again, these are different narratives, these are different versions of the same story. Yeah, mythology plot hole, right? But I do think it's just different versions of the same story. But it's just funny how, like, Athena and Hephaestus' stories are kind of linked in that way. So it's like chicken or egg. The story and origin of the Trojan War charms me with how immature and strikingly human the gods are. Yeah, I think that's definitely part of the charm too. Back in ancient times too, like, a lot of these gods and goddesses probably just started as anthropomorphizations or like humanizations of certain concepts, right? They wanted to humanize the concept of war. They wanted to humanize the concept of love and leadership and all these things, right? And then eventually, after multiple, like, storytellings around the campfire, people started to give them personalities. It's like, oh, what would someone who is the personification of war, what kind of personality would they have, right? And of course it would probably be biased by how they felt about war. So if they thought war was stupid, then of course the personification of war would also be stupid, right? So I think that's one of those other, like, what I find beautiful about these stories is because you can tell a lot about, like, the storytellers too. Snake, you created a time paradox. Din, 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 din. Din, din, din. Gunshot noise. So yeah, she is typically shown with a helmet and spear. And her symbols include owls, olive trees, horses, and snakes. And sometimes she's described as having these, like, shining eyes, these gray eyes. And then her, along with Hestia and Artemis, are known as the virgin goddesses. So they never take on a consort. They kind of just vibe, you know? So she's usually known for, like, giving, kind of very similar to Aphrodite. She can usually give counsel to heroes, but she can also give, like, punishment and vengeance. So a good example is Arachne. Arachne was someone who was, like, such a good weaver that she said that she was, like, better than the gods. And Athena challenged her to a competition. Arachne was, like, humiliated by this competition to the point where she actually, like, unalived herself, and Athena took pity on her and transformed her into the first spider. So she, just like Aphrodite, has, like, both her good and her bad side. But with that, let's go ahead and look at the Digimon that's inspired by her, because this is where we start getting to Digimon that are like, oh, that's like, it's very easy to say, like, that is completely incorrect, but I would rather phrase it as, like, that's a very interesting take on this character. Because in many, many ways, she kind of is the opposite of how Athena / Minerva is shown in the mythology. So here we have Minervamon. She actually has two forms. So this is her default form. This is her ex-antibody form. And she is described as very childlike. She's innocent and cheerful, but she can also be kind of moody. And then she has a great sword called Olympia. So she also has, like, plenty of wind-based abilities, and she also has a lot of snake symbolism, which we'll go over in a bit. We also have the ex-antibody form, and she's small, she's tiny, she's chibi. And two of her braids become, like, sentient, and they are named Ulula and Serpens, which means screech owl and snake, which once again are symbols of her. So the owl is a symbol of Athena. The snake is also a symbol. And then they can also they actually provide her with battle tactics, which is really interesting, right? It's just interesting because Minerva and Athena is, once again, she was literally born fully formed, fully adult. And yet here we're seeing a version that is like, she is a child. So she is showing this kind of like she doesn't have wisdom. She might have intelligence, but she doesn't have wisdom just yet, right? And in fact, she doesn't even create her own strategies. Her braids give her strategies for her. She's also shown with a sword, and this isn't like even though she is a warrior goddess, she's usually shown more with like a lance or a spear. But you know, I'm gonna give this one I think that's okay. Kind of similar to like how Mars isn't usually shown fighting with his bare fists, but you can kind of see him do that, right? So the reason why I won't just outright call this incorrect is because actually Minervamon has another form, Mervamon. So this is actually a version of Minervamon that has matured. So now she has more battle experience, and even her sword has like matured as well. It's Olympia Kai, and her battle style is more closer to graceful dancing. And she can even fight with her arm as well. Her arm also becomes a serpent. So the reason why I don't say this is incorrect, because even though Athena is born fully formed, this shows almost like the development of wisdom. This might show that, like, you know, Athena, she's born fully formed because the Greeks and the Romans assume that wisdom is born fully formed and fully articulated from your brain. But sometimes that's not how it actually happens, right? Sometimes you do have to develop the idea. Sometimes it starts off as just an idea, something very, you know, kind of like a little flicker in the dark, before you can really maintain that flame and actually have it come out as wisdom, as like a fully formed piece of like intelligence, wisdom, and experience. Because a big thing, you notice how I said that maybe she has intelligence but not wisdom, because that's kind of especially if you play D&D, at least this is how I imagine the difference between intelligence and wisdom. Is intelligence is actually, someone who plays D&D probably has a better way of explaining it. But like, you can be intelligent, but wisdom is something that you get with maturity, with years of experience, with prior experience. So this, at least my interpretation of it, with Minervamon becoming Mervamon, is that whole process of like, it doesn't have to be fully formed. It could start out as like an inkling of an idea before it blossoms into like something a little bit more fully formed, a little bit more matured. So I just think that's neat. I just think that's neat, because at first I was kind of that person that was like, incorrect, wrong. Like, this isn't Athena. This is dumb. Like, the people who made her like don't know nothing about Greek mythology. But the more you think about it, the more it's like, oh, this could actually be like an alternative interpretation of this idea of wisdom. Let's see, oddly in D&D it's kind of the opposite. Oh yeah, I feel like I've heard so many like adages of like, what is the difference between like intelligence and wisdom. I remember there was something like intelligence is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is knowing that you don't put it in a fruit salad. Like, that's what I've heard before. Int is your ability to store and recall facts and data. Wisdom is your ability to intuit feelings and perceive. Wisdom is natural awareness, and intelligence is learning. Interesting. The way that I differentiate the two is that whole like you're using prior experience versus knowing actual facts, right? Of knowing, it's like, I guess, like the difference between being pedantic, where it's like the whole like fruit salad thing, right? Was it tomatoes are a fruit, but you wouldn't put it in a fruit salad. So yeah, but once again, like initially I dismissed Minervamon and Mervamon as like, this isn't Athena at all. But I don't know. I feel like this has given me a more a better kind of interpretation of the whole process of like wisdom and battle strategy, so to speak. So thanks for letting me know about how it is in D&D, because I know that that's sometimes like a question, like what's the difference between wisdom and intelligence, right? So yeah, that's Minervamon, that's Mervamon. Let's go ahead and Excuse me. Let's go ahead and look at their design. So both of their forms are overall anthropomorphic. The biggest thing is their snake motif, which is funny because usually Athena is more strongly associated with the owl, rather than the snake, but it is one of her symbols. Later on, we're gonna see a god where they have an animal form, but it is not one of their symbols, like, at all. So like the snake is still like a symbol, but just not as much as like the owl usually is. But you can see here she has like the snake head helmet over here as well. She has the scales on her armor. Mervamon even has like a whole snake as her arm. And they also both have wing features on their head. So this one is a little bit more feathery, so that might be a reference to owls. This one is a little bit more draconic, so that might be more of a reference to snakes. Mervamon has more spiky teeth-like motifs as well. So like if you see on her boobies and her legs, there's a little bit more teeth there. And then, excuse me, Olympia and Medulla, they both have this like intertwined snake design. So this might be a reference to something called the Caduceus. Combines them both and you get Quetzalcoatl. Is that real? Like, is that an actual thing in Digimon that like if they DNA digivolve, they become Quetzalcoatlmon? Oh, are you talking about how like the feathers and the snake? Because yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Once I'm done with this presentation, I do want to do more deep dives by comparing other like mythology. Yeah, the feathered serpent. So I want to do more like deep dives into like mythological Digimon. Because there is Quetzalcoatlmon, and I do a lot of research in Mesoamerican mythology. So it would be cool to like look into like Tlalocmon or Quetzalcoatlmon. Looking forward to the Royal Knights. Unfortunately, like I am pretty weak when it comes to Arthurian legend. Like I don't know that much about Arthurian legend. I would be down to see like who's Lancelot and who's Gawain, right? And I only know those names because of Fate. But I definitely want to do one for ancient Egypt. I want to do one for Mesoamerica, and then there's probably other ones like ancient China as well. But yeah, so this intertwined snake is usually associated with a symbol called the Caduceus, but that is a symbol that is actually more associated with Hermes or Mercury, or another god named Asclepius. So they seem more like Charlemagne's paladins, but even then it's a loose comparison. Oh, I see. But yeah, so Athena is sometimes associated with snakes, especially in the sense of like Medusa. Mythology streams, so like not including Digimon, but just going over mythology, because I'd be down to go over that as well. But yeah, so that is Minervamon, that is Mervamon. Their designs and their interpretation of this concept of wisdom is really cool. And now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the twins, the Dioscuri. Oh no, wait, they're not the Dioscuri. I think Castor and Pollux are the Dioscuri. A type moonstream is basically mythology 101. Oh man, like if I did Fate Go, maybe. Yeah, Castor and Pollux are the Dioscuri. Yeah. I think I accidentally said that because Apollo and Artemis are also twins, but yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the twins. So I'm gonna kind of lump them both in together with you just have to limit it to your favorites. Yeah, definitely. 100%. Let's see. What was I saying? You have them in FGO. Yo, nice. Oh my god, I got Draco the other day. I was so not the other day. Whenever her like banner was up, I got Draco, and I was like, "Oh yes!" Gonna get her to 100. Nice. I really want to do more Fate Go streams when I get the chance. Okay, so we have here Apollo and his twin Artemis. Apollo is an interesting one because he is the god of light and civilization and prophecy and poetry and music, knowledge, medicine, and the sun. Basically, he is the god of civilization and everything that's kind of associated with like quote unquote like civilized society. So like poetry, music, stuff like that. Whereas his twin Artemis is kind of the opposite. She's kind of the goddess of like the wilderness. So both him and Artemis are born to Zeus and the goddess Leto. Not Jared Leto, but the goddess Leto. Just like with Zeus and Poseidon, Apollo could not keep it in his pants. He was chasing men and women and many people. Including the muses, by the way. There's like a set of 9 muses who all like preside over something specific, like comedy, tragedy, history, music, and stuff. He was a lover to all 9 of them. And then he has a lot of temples, but his main center of worship was the Oracle at Delphi, and he has an epithet meaning bright Apollo, Phoebus Apollo, usually associated with the sun. So before I get to the Digimon equivalent, let's also go into his sister Artemis. And many of them died, died or were like horribly transformed. In fact, if we go back to the picture here, this is actually a statue of him chasing, I think it's Daphne. She's a nymph who like would have rather become a tree. She transformed herself in a tree because she was like, I would rather be a tree than to like be romanced by you. So that's Apollo. His sister Artemis is the complete opposite in many ways. So she's the goddess of the moon, of darkness, of wilderness, of wild animals, hunting, and virginity. So whereas Apollo can't keep it in his pants, Artemis like hates the idea of sex. Obligatory Fluttershy mention, is that My Little Pony? Is that I'm actually not familiar. Daphne was the shapely tree rat and tried to riz. She can't get any breaks. Oh no. So yeah, she is also the daughter of the goddess Leto. She was one of the 3 virgin goddesses, and people would often pray to her before hunting so that they wouldn't die from like a wild animal. And usually her stories include her hunting with a band of nymphs. And there's a lot of stories of like someone accidentally saw her and her nymphs naked. So they got punished by being turned into an animal, and the animal got hunted down, usually by their own dogs. So there's a lot of stories like that. And later on, actually, when she became Diana during the Roman period, check Berlos in a little bit. During the Roman period, eventually because of this association with like the darkness and the moon, she also got associations with witchcraft and the occult. So she would become associated with like what goes on in the dark of the night, witchcraft. So it's interesting. So if you think about these two together, they're complete opposites. So she's the goddess of the wilderness and everything that is wild and dark and unknown. And Apollo is the god of the light and everything that is associated with like light and quote unquote civilization. So let's go ahead and take a look at their Digimon form. So we have here Apollomon. Actually, let me take a sip of water real quick. Bartwolf, I just saw what you posted on the Discord. Love this design. Yeah. So this is an interesting one. So both Apollomon and Dianamon came out at the exact same time, and they were actually the mascots for 2 games. It was called Digimon Story Sunburst and Digimon Story Moonlight. It was kind like those 2 games were kind of like what Pokemon was doing with like Pokemon Red and Blue, Pokemon Gold and Silver. So Digimon Story, they released basically like 2 very similar games, but with like kind of opposite themes. So Digimon Story Sunburst and Digimon Story Moonlight. And Apollomon, his like tiny form, which is Flaremon, he's like a little lion. He was the mascot for Sunburst. Meanwhile, Dianamon, her rookie form, her small form, was the mascot for Moonlight. And because of that, they both have very strong sun and moon motifs. So if we look at Apollomon over here, very strong sun motif. So he's got the warm coloring. He's got a lot of orbs, you know, signifying the sun. His hair looks very fiery. Sun bears in moonlight. Exactly. They should make a Digimon story, Sun Bear. It's me, BINKAmon. No moon bears. There are moon bears, but but I don't know if they're in Digimon just yet. Like Jiro's a moon bear. So one thing that's very interesting about this design is that Apollo, out of the many things that he was associated with, civilization, music, laurel wreaths, swans, pythons, he was not often associated with lions. At least in a lot of the sources that I was looking up, he's not traditionally associated with lions at all. So the reason behind this design might be closer to, like, lions are usually associated with like pride and passion and all these kind of fiery, hot, you know, like associations. So that might be why they chose a lion. But it's interesting because, like, this, out of the many things that Apollo is associated with, lions aren't one of them. At least, like I said, in my sources. So this Digimon in particular is known for being very prideful and passionate, and he controls fire. It's such an intense fire that it can even melt and purify substances, kind of like the sun. So he uses the flame sphere on his back, but he also uses arrows, which both, I think I forgot to mention this, but both Apollo and Artemis are known for their archery. So both of them, there's actually kind of a messed up story. So so Apollo and Artemis, once again, they're twins, and they overheard a mortal woman, I think her name was Niobe, who had 100 sons and daughters. Don't know how she pulled that off, but she has 100 sons and daughters, and she was saying that, like, I am better than Leto because I was able to give birth to 100 sons and daughters, and she was only able to give birth to 2. I'm so much better. So what Apollo and Artemis did is they came up from the heavens with their bow and arrow, and they shot every single one of her kids, and they were all dead. And that was their revenge. And they're like, never speak negatively about our mother again, you whore. They didn't say that part, but I would assume, you know. So definitely Apollo and Artemis are both associated with archery, and you see that here as well. So he has the power to shoot arrows, as does his sister. So let's go ahead and go over into his design a little bit. Sometimes the most effective solution is the most simple, I suppose. For real, it's kind of like we were talking about Kronos, right? Where it's like, oh man, one of my kids is gonna overthrow me. Better eat them. It's like, someone's making fun of our mom? Better kill our kids. Talk should get hit. Exactly. So here's Apollomon's design. He was designed by someone named Koide Taku, who was in charge of the designs for Sunburst and Moonlight. So he is still overall human, but he also has one of the more animal-like designs, or zoomorphic designs, because he has this snout. The snout over here. So he has a lot of lion features. So he has the snout, he has a big mane, he has a big old tail, as well as a warm color palette, because he has the whole like sun and flame motifs. He also has very round shapes in his armor, and it's not super obvious right now, but when we compare him to Dianamon, then it becomes a little bit more obvious because she has a lot more sharper features. So here you see a lot of like circles here. There's some like, even his thighs are nice and round, right? His chest, very round. So when we compare it to Dianamon, you'll kind of see a little bit of that contrast. So we already went over Artemis. So here's Dianamon. She has a really cool design as well. So once again, she's the mascot for Digimon Story Moonlight. And this is another thing. So once again, you remember how I said that Apollo isn't associated with lions, but usually like the traditional symbolism of lions is probably why he became like a lion-like figure, why Apollomon became a lion-like figure. So here Dianamon is a rabbit. Now, there were rabbits in ancient Greece, and Artemis kind of had the rabbit as a symbol, but it's only because she's usually associated with all wild animals. So if you think about all wild animals, that means she's associated with deer, with wolves, with pigs, and with rabbits. However, the idea of the rabbit being connected to the moon is not something you usually see in ancient Greece. You see this more with the Americas and with East Asia. So you see it with like Japan. They usually say that like the craters on the moon, they kind of look like a rabbit that's pounding mochi. People in Mesoamerica also associated rabbits with the moon. There's a funny part of the myth where there was a sun god who there were supposed to be like two sun gods, but one of the sun gods was being very cowardly, so another god took a rabbit and smacked that sun god in the face with the rabbit, and he became the moon, and that's why the moon has a rabbit on its face because of that. So see, with a touch of Sailor Senshi. Yeah, I do feel like that might also be a reference to Sailor Moon in a little way. Which Sailor Moon, her whole idea of like the moon rabbit also comes from this tradition from East Asia. So yeah, the moon rabbit thing isn't really a thing in like Greece or in ancient Greece, but because the people who made this design are Japanese, they wanted to put that association in there. So she's known for being beautiful and strong, and then she actually controls water and ice, but she can also create illusions. So illusions and like the subconscious, if you guys have ever gone to like any of my tarot reading streams and I've drawn the moon card, usually the moon is associated with things like that, like the subconscious, with illusions, with things that aren't in the physical world. So it kind of also makes sense that she has those abilities. So kind of like how Apollo and Artemis are kind of opposites, so are Apollomon and Dianamon. They're kind of opposites in that way. So let's go ahead and look at her design. We have here Dianamon. She is also humanoid, but it's kind of hard to tell if her snout is also like a rabbit. You can't really tell if it sticks out or not. Like maybe, but it's a little bit hard to tell. She does have the rabbit-like ears, so like there's one pair over here, there's one pair over here, so she technically has like 4 pairs of what might be like rabbit ears, and she has a bit of a cooler color palette, whereas Apollomon, I keep hesitating, I keep wanting to say like her brother, but they never really say whether Apollomon and Dianamon are actually siblings. I just associate them as siblings because Artemis and Apollo are twins, right? So but technically they aren't said to be siblings. Maybe in Time Stranger they will be said to be siblings, but we don't know for sure. But as opposed to Apollomon, she has more of a cooler color palette. She has blues and whites with some pink and yellow accents. And then one of her notable features are her legs. Not only does she got legs for days, but her legs are made up of little moons. They're pretty cute, right? These moons can also lull her opponents to sleep. And then right here, kind of like what Bardawolf was saying, the pink ribbons, like these, they kind of give me Sailor Moon vibes. So I know I said earlier that, Volcanismon, he might be a reference to Emiyashiro, and I said I don't think any of the other Olympus 12 are references to any other, like, people in popular culture, but I take it back. Because this might be a Sailor Moon reference. Maybe. This might be a reach, but I'm just saying. And then once again, if you look at some of her features, they're a lot more angular and spiky compared to Apollomon. So if you look back at Apollomon, once again, very round, and then you go back to Dianamon. She has a little bit more like corners, more sharp edges, right? So they both have like they're opposites also in their designs as well, which I think is really cool. But yeah, that's Dianamon. And oh my gosh, we're down to our last our last 2, but we actually have one more kind of like side with these 2, and that's the fact that they can actually fuse together. In the mythology, I don't think there's any sometimes you do see gods and goddesses like merging together. For example, in Hinduism, you see Shiva sometimes combining with his consort, and they become this kind of hermaphroditic figure that has both male and female features. In ancient Egyptian religion, sometimes you see 2 gods merge together, like Ra and Horus will come together to become Re Harakti. You don't often see that with Artemis and Apollo. In fact, I've never heard of it. I could be wrong in that regard, but nonetheless, This is a Digimon that is a fusion of Apollomon and Dianamon. It's called Grace Novamon. We have another ad break coming up. So let me see if I can finish this within the minute. But yeah, they weren't often syncretized together, especially because they represent opposites, right? Like night and moon, that kind of thing. However, Grace Novamon does have an attack called the Caledon Arcus, which represents a story about the Caledonian boar hunt. And then it also has blades called the Meleagros. This is a hero. This is a reference to a hero named Meleager, who was hunting the Caledonian boar. And this boar was summoned by Artemis to ravage a town for failing to honor her in a ritual to the gods. So, like, basically a lot of features of this Digimon reference the twins in some way, shape, or form, but more so Artemis. So, yeah. That's Grace Novamon. That's a really interesting figure because there isn't really an equivalent in the mythology, but something to chew on. Something to chew on. We're already at our second ad break, y'all. We're already at our second ad break, so I'll go ahead and put you guys out in recess. Oh, there's two of me! Ignore the other one. She's fake. But yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and rest my voice a little. I'm gonna eat more of my fried rice. I'm gonna drink some water, and I'll see you guys after the ad break. We're back. We're so back. You guys playing around with the commands? That's right, local feline. You can dance, you can fart, you can explode, you can bomb. There's just so many possibilities. You can explode. Oh wait, let's do this. I'm so excited. Look, I can do something for you guys. Okay, you guys ready? Watch this. Yahoo! You guys having fun? You guys having fun in recess? Eepee! Also, hello, Zako. They flinging us. Oh, that reminds me. I shouldn't get too distracted because we have just what we only have 2 more gods left to go. But look, I could do something. Here we go. Oh no! You guys exploded. You guys exploded. Look, I could do something too. Give me a second. Where are you guys? Look, I can get someone. Who am I gonna get? Who am I gonna get? I'll get Matthew. There you go. See, I could directly lift you guys. Like, watch this. I have a couple more tools in the toolkit. Here we go. I have my Matthew's gonna be the hall monitor. So there you go. He's the hall he's watching over you guys to make sure I have ascended, pinned like a butterfly. No, he's not pinned like a butterfly. He's watching over you guys. He's my assistant teacher. Achieve verticality. Exactly. See, if you guys are nice to me, then you too can ascend. It's true. It's true. Explode. I forgot that you could explode other people. No, don't abuse your power. Don't abuse your power. You get the... There you go. Like, the verticality got to your head, methinks. Alright, let's get back into it, shall we? Let's get back into it. Fallen from grace. Curse of Ra. Oh no! Don't abuse your powers. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. Okay. Yeah, let's get back into it. We're actually down to our last 2 gods. Who'da thunk it? Oh wait, let me make sure that I have the chat open so I can see what you guys are yapping about, what you guys are doing. You guys are exploding yourselves again. How dare you? How dare you? That's all I ask. How dare you? So, we're on to Hermes. You guys can keep playing with your avatars while I'm yapping, by the way. I don't mind at all. Just know that I will occasionally look at the chat and be like, okay, cool, they're exploding. They're exploding and they're farting, as is tradition. But yeah, so we have Hermes, also known as Mercury. This is the god of travel, commerce, borders, roads, crossroads, herding, thieves, liars, tricksters, cunning, and wit. So he's kind of like a god of many, many things. He's kind of the god of those who are at the margins, right? Those who like maybe aren't recognized by the majority, right? They might be the minority, for example. That's why he's also the god of like foreigners, of thieves, liars, tricksters, kind of like Seth from Egyptian religion as well. He's mainly known for being the messenger of the gods because he has both winged sandals. Actually, neither of these are really showing it. He usually has like a winged hat and winged sandals. So he's able to travel freely between like the human world and the gods world, right? So he's usually the person that is like, yo, Zeus is requesting your presence, you know, stuff like that. But he also uses that ability to guide souls to the underworld. So he's also what's known as a psychopomp. Psychopomp is just like a word for someone who guides the souls into the underworld. So in different religions, sometimes you'll see that like jackals in Egyptian religion are the psychopomps. They lead the souls to the next world, stuff like that. He is also the son of Zeus and a Pleiad. A Pleiad is a kind of nymph named Maya. She had given birth to him inside of a cave, and from the moment that he could walk, he was already being a bit of a trickster. He, like, the first thing that he did, like, within minutes of being born, is he stole Apollo's cattle. He made the very first musical instrument, which was what's called the lyre, Lyre. Not the first historically, but like within the mythos, within mythology. He's said to be like the first god to do that. So in addition to being shown with the winged sandals and the winged helmet, he also has the caduceus, which we talked about before when we were talking about Athena, right? It's also known as the Kerykeion, which he actually received from Apollo. So the story goes that, like, once again, within minutes of being born, Hermes stole Apollo's cattle. And he even like hid the cow's tracks by attaching a broom to the cow's tails, and then he even like nailed I forgot what he did. He put fake tracks on the cows to make it look like they were walking backwards, essentially. So this was kind of like a way to show that he was very clever, very witty. And then Apollo eventually tracked him down, and he was so charmed by his like witty brother and the musical instrument that he made that he decided to give him the caduceus, which is the staff with the intertwined snakes. So yeah, if there's anything to know about this god, is that he's very witty. He's very cunning. He's known for being a bit of a trickster, and he's able to go between the realms, basically. So between the realm of like the divine, the human, and the underworld. So with that, we're gonna look at Mercurymon, also known as Marukimon. Oh, it's not going. Why isn't it going? There we go. So this is another case where at first glance, it's like, this guy is the opposite. It's like nothing like the actual Mercury. This, like, it felt like the creators were just, they were just kind of doing whatever. But very similar to the case with Minerva and Mervamon, maybe this is more so an alternate interpretation of Mercury. So let's go ahead and talk about this guy. So this is another one of those Digimon that premiered very, very early. So he debuted in 2005, and it was with a VPET called the Axel Nature Genome. So his whole shtick, his whole motif is that he's a shaman. But he's also a speedster. He said that he can, it's said that he can like speed around so fast that if you are looking at him, you're actually looking at an after image of him. So another thing is that he has a blade called Aztec, which is like a completely different culture, but whatever. we'll kind of get into that. And he's able to summon apparitions and spirits. He can also fight with his bare hands, or he can absorb enemies' energy with something called the Kerykeion, which is the name of his caduceus, his staff, if you remember. So, and these pictures are fresh off the press. These are actually like brand new images. Like when I made this slideshow, I actually had completely different images, and then these images actually premiered just like a couple days ago. His color scheme is bonkers. Yeah, I kind of agree. It's interesting because it's like, yeah, there's a very vibrant blue with like a brown and black. So it does start to grow on you after a while, but it is a bit of a choice. So he is definitely going to be a big figure in the upcoming Time Stranger game, because he's the ruler of Central Town, which is one of the first places that you start off in the video game. So, and I personally think that this makes sense because he's also the god of travelers and merchants. Did he debut the same time as Marsmon? I can see similarities in the choices made. Yes, he did, actually. So Mercurymon, Marsmon, and Neptunemon all debuted around the same time. So yeah, you kind of see like very similar motifs. So like there's definitely human features, but then there's also a Digimon head. There's definitely like the designs and the very interesting color palette. So if you want, it does make sense to like kind of compare to Marsmon. There we go. So yeah, you have like the jawline of a human, but then like Digimon features. You actually see the same thing with Neptunemon. Let me see if we can get to that. Here, Neptunemon. You can't really see it, like, you can barely see it here. But yeah, like, Neptunemon also has that, like, human jawline. So yeah, that's a really great observation. Let's go all the way back. Yeah, Mercurymon. So let's talk a little bit about his design, since we were just getting into it. So, in a way, he's kind of like the reverse of Apollomon, where his silhouette is actually more animal-like. If you were to like take out like the color entirely and you just see his shadow, he kind of looks like a beast. Like, he does have like this whole snout over here. The hair is a little bit more unruly, and even his legs, they're claws, you know? But once again, he does kind of like, he does resemble Marsmon in a way. Oh yeah, so his animal head, arms, and legs resemble a teal Garurumon. Kind of like how Marsmon resembles like a Gabumon or an Ikakumon. But teal colored for whatever reason. And then this is kind of the big thing, is he does have armor, but it's all leather. So he has this mirror with tassels. He has leather armor. He has this sash over here. He even has little feathers. To me, at least, it feels like the person who designed him was going for kind of like a generalized American indigenous like design, so to speak. They wanted to give him this like tribal or shaman motif, and it's kind of supported with the fact that his blade name is Aztec. This, by the way, like, this is definitely not Aztec in too many ways. Like, Aztec would be a little bit different. There would be a little bit more geometric features. A really good example of Aztec features would probably be Tlalocmon. Let me show you guys that one. This guy is very like Mesoamerican. Not perfectly so, but like a lot closer than Mercurymon. So let me show you this guy. This is Tlalocmon, who I would love to do a deep dive on him sometime as well. So he's based off of Mesoamerican deities, and you see there's lots of like geometric forms. So like there's the circles here, more circles. There's like designs here that just very geometric. They use like certain design motifs. So this one is definitely a little bit more closer to like Mesoamerican. He also has a little bit of feathers here. But otherwise, like, if you compare, this feels a little bit more like Native American or American indigenous, really. However, I will give them one thing, and that's the fact that he has a mirror. He has a mirror on his chest. When we were playing, what was that one game? Descent of the Serpent. It was this game about Mesoamerica. There is a god named Tezcatlipoca. He is one of the kind of like big gods, and his name means the smoking mirror, which is kind of a reference to obsidian. However, mirrors in general in different cultures are usually associated with the spiritual world, so this kind of goes very much into like the whole shaman vibe. But once again, as with like Minervamon and Mervamon and Minerva, it feels like Mercurymon isn't that close to the god that he's inspired by, right? So Mercury, because Mercurymon, I imagine someone like the Flash from DC Comics, right? Someone who's a speedster. He could be kind of witty. He could be kind of like quick with like the comeback, stuff like that. I don't quite imagine someone like this, but then again, we haven't seen too much of his excuse me, I burped. Too much of his personality. Well, he's appeared in the anime in the Digimon, I don't know if it's like X-Cross Wars or if it's Savers. I forgot which one, but he has been in the anime, but he seemed like more of like a gruff figure rather than this kind of like laid back, like, hey, I'm a speedster, you know? So who knows? Maybe his personality will be a little bit different in Time Stranger, but at first glance, it does seem very opposite, right? But once again, if we want to like interpret it a certain way, this could be looking into the more, I guess, esoteric or secretive parts of like Hermes the god, because one thing that I left out here is that eventually once we get into like the Renaissance period, we did start seeing people who were, how do I say this? And also this kind of history I'm not super duper like knowledgeable on, but there's a figure called Hermes Trismegistus, and it's a figure that is often associated with like the occult, with like demons and stuff. Not sure if intentional, but the zoomorphology could be in reference to the trickster coyote in American indigenous myth, which they seem to be taking a lot from. Oh, that's an amazing... Ooh, I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, mystery cults. No testosterone. I love that a lot. So yeah, maybe that is part of it as well, because GRECO-ROMAN, the Digimon that this seems to resemble the most, is a wolf, but you could also interpret it as a coyote. They're both canids, right? They're both types of like dog-like animals, right? So it's very possible. So maybe the designers were intending for more of like an American indigenous, Native American kind of design motif. And that was kind of their way of interpreting Mercury, because once again, he's also like, he's supposed to be this god of someone at the margins. He's supposed to be the god of people who like, they're, you know, it's kind of thinking outside the box in a way. If the rest of the Olympus 12 are seen as very like Greek and Roman, they have like the Greek and Roman armor, they have the Greek and Roman features, then the god of those who are kind of at the margins, it would make sense that he kind of looks nothing like them in a way. So I kind of like that interpretation a lot. So, but he still has a little bit of that speedster, that spiritual, and that trickster motif. What was I gonna say? Oh, that's what I was gonna say. So, once again, Hermes is also a psychopomp. He leads people to the next world. He's also able to cross between the divine world, the human world, and the underworld. So that's also very much what a shaman does in many different cultures. Shamans are people who are known to like cross into these worlds, whether it's through trance, whether it's through their rituals. That is what they do. So that is also just, it's very possible that this is just another way of interpreting Mercury the deity, by interpreting him as like Mercury-mon. So yeah, you pet the cats. I'm glad you guys are enjoying the redeems. I'm glad. By the way, if anyone has the points for it. Oh no, never mind. I'm not in PNG form. I don't have any costumes that I can change into. Unless you really want me to see me like change into a PNG costume. But for now, I'm going to stick with the live 2D. But yeah, you can feel free. If you have the points, feel free to play around with the redeems. But yeah, so that's Mercury-mon. At first glance, it's like, this guy's not Mercury. What the hoo-ha? But now that I look at it, it's like, maybe he's just another interpretation. And I think that's pretty cool. I noticed that I keep ending each of the gods with like, and I think that's pretty cool. Well, let's see if we could finish off this whole shebang with that phrase as well. So we are here at our last deity. So this is Dionysus, also known as Bacchus. I think I mentioned this in the first stream, but a lot of people assume that Bacchus is his Roman name. It's actually just another Greek name. So he was known as Dionysus, but then eventually he was also known as Bacchus by the Greeks. But then the Romans adopted that name as well. So the Romans didn't make up this name, they just adopted another Greek name. So, I mean, would it be a thing if you thought one of them was mid? I know, it'd be funny, like, and I think that's pretty mid. Moving on. Dionysus is an interesting one. He's a really, really interesting one. He is the god of wine, madness, ecstasy, revelry, partying it up. He's a pretty cool guy. He's an interesting one because if you guys have seen the overly sarcastic videos about this guy, he has had a lot of different identities throughout the centuries. So, in many ways, he might have started out as a Mycenaean god of like rebirth in the underworld, and then eventually basically became nerfed so that his associations were a little bit more tame, but still associated with things like wine, madness, and mystery cults. Yes, Matthew, exactly. Even his birth is kind of a crazy story, so I'll do my best to tell it. So once again, this is another child of Zeus, of Jupiter. And I think I told this story last time, but I'll tell it again this time. So, he is courting a woman named Semele. He gets her pregnant, and she's a couple months pregnant when suddenly an old woman comes to Semele and says, "Oh, how do you know that man you're courting is really Zeus and not just a mortal that's pretending to be Zeus? You should tell him to show you his true form." And then Semele listens to this old woman who is actually Hera. By the way, it was actually Hera all along. She goes over to Zeus and says, I want you to show me your true form. Otherwise, I'm not going to accept that you are Zeus. I'm just going to think that you're a phony. And Zeus is begging her like, no, please. Mortals can't behold the true nature of a god. You're gonna burn alive. But eventually he relents, he does it, and she burns alive, as she said. However, Zeus is able to save the embryo. He's able to save Dionysus, and depending on the story, he is basically put into Zeus, either in his leg for some reason, or another body part, and he's eventually born again. So this theme of him being born again is kind of like a big theme with him, because he's sometimes associated once again with this idea of rebirth, transformation, in the underworld. But eventually he was kind of like nerfed in a way. So instead of being this whole like big deal underworld god of rebirth, he's more associated with wine and madness and revelry and transformations. Specifically those cults were like how Christian missionaries would co-opt other deities and claiming them as their own. Yeah, they're really interesting. I when I have the time, I do want to like look into them a little bit more, because you know me, I do love religious syncretism and all that. Greek deities will do anything but go to marriage counseling. It's true. It's true. Dionysus may have been an Eastern deity originally, but became a child of Zeus. Yeah, that goes into what we were talking about earlier, right? How like a lot of these tales might have been their own thing from like certain regions until Greece kind of like co-opted them and was like, oh, that's actually a story of another one of Zeus's children. So I think that's really cool. Amerly, hello. We are at the tail end of talking about Digimon and Greek gods, but you still came just in time. We haven't looked at the Digimon itself yet. So, yeah, that's Dionysus. He has followers, by the way. He has followers like a streamer, but his, if you guys are the Bibinkubs, his followers, they're not the Vesties, they're not the Randonites, they're the Maenads or the Bacchae. And they are known for being kind of wild in their worship. Because what they would do, what their ritual was, is they would dismember people. They would dismember animals and people. And it was their way of worshiping for their Oshi, you see. So yeah, when I say they got wild, they got kind of wild. So not only is he associated with wine, he's associated with the kind of like this state of being just like in complete revelry, like giving up use of your body to the point where you don't even know what you're doing anymore. Beeple, no, we're not dismembering anyone, especially not the all mother father. Beeple. Yeah, they would dismember people. So yeah, he's kind of wild. Oh, and no, the explosions. It's just like that, you see. That's how their parties would go. So let's take a look at Bacchusmon. So as you can see, out of all of the Olympus 12, he kind of has the wildest form of everyone. He is the least anthropomorphic out of all of them. But before we get into that, let's get a little bit into his bio. So despite how he looks kind of scary, right? He's quite jovial. He likes being the life of the party. He holds these like feasts, these parties, and he invites a lot of rookie and champion Digimon to the feast. He likes to get them drunk. Don't worry, he's not gonna do nothing weird. He just likes to get them drunk. And he's also close to Charismon. If you guys remember Charismon, she is the one that is a bird. She is the one that... She's the one that looks like this. And remember, on her back is a forest, and on that forest are trees that, if you harvest them before they're ripe, they are poisonous. However, they are also fertile, so they can also make things grow. So keep that in mind, because Bacchusmon, he likes harvesting those fruits and making wines out of them. He's got a mouth big enough for honeycomb. Ding 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 ding. Go. He also is kind of OP. He's kind of OP with his abilities, because he can just turn people into drinking snacks. He just has the ability to do that. And then remember, so he can make wine out of the fruits from Charismon's back. These fruits are poisonous, so therefore the wine is also has the potential to be poisonous. So he uses that as a weapon. And then if he drinks too much, he also gets a mode change called crapulence mode. This is the first time I heard about this word when doing research for this. It's an actual word. It's an actual English word. It literally just means that you are completely drunk. So in this mode, he can actually expel a beam of data that can absorb further data from anything it hits. So it kind of like, it's like a Miku Miku beam, but anything that like gets hit by the beam, their data gets absorbed. So it's kind of scary, just a little bit. Miku Miku beam. I get crapulence when I drink too. When I drink too much sometimes too. I know, I feel like that's like definitely the experience when you have a little bit too much to drink and it's like, ah yes, the crapulence. Miku Miku beam. So this is another one that's possibly created by Moriyama So. Out of the entire Olympus 12, he is the least humanoid. He is like, if you look at everyone's silhouette, hello Twisty, hello. If you look at everyone's silhouette, they're somewhat human. Sometimes they might have animal features, but they are usually bipedal. They usually, you know, they look humanoid. Bacchusmon does not. He looks like a serpent. He does have 2 arms. He's got a big old belly, but then he also has this cute little head. We'll get to the head, but the giant mouth on its stomach kind of reminds me of horror movies a lot. So like there's The Thing, and then there's Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors. So kind of reminds me of that. And then the little tiny head reminds me of either Majin Buu from DBZ or any in-training Digimon, really. Like any one of those cute little, like, let's see if I can get an example right now. Like, maybe Pagumon might be a good example. And get a sample of Pagumon over here. Pog! He's back! In Pog form! Kinda looks like that, right? Kinda, sorta. And I do wonder if it is kind of a way to, I put here like, to make the guests feel more at ease, or if it's a deception. If it's like, you could trust me, buddy. You can trust me and my gigantic mouth. But less gross, exactly. Let's see. He reminds me of the first boss in Final Fantasy Tactics, but less gross. Ah, I see. That's what you were saying. That's what you were saying. The beam ability is pretty in tune with the thing, too. Oh, yeah, huh. I didn't even put that together. I just remember, like, the... some of those graphics, right? Or not, like, the graphic deaths in some of those movies. Oh yeah, so if you look at his armlets as well, he has little armlets on his arms. They kind of look like eyes that would go with the mouth. So if we assume that this is the mouth, then this kind of also looks like the eyes. I don't know how intentional that was, but it does also make for a very interesting kind of like, if you blur your eyes, you almost see like a second face, right? His color scheme is very interesting. It's purple, pink, and green. Seems random, but I also associate it with grapes and wine. And then when he goes into crapulence mode, he has very ornate seals or designs. Oh, Schnackery's here. Schnackery. My little cat's here. I'll show you guys a comparison. So this is how he looks normally, right? And then I'm going to transition into crapulence mode. The only change is that he gets these designs on him. Excuse me. Give me a second. I inhaled saliva again. I keep doing that. I get too excited, you see. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so these whatchamacallit? These ornate designs, they do remind me a little bit of like esoteric seals. Stuff that you would see in like kind of occult stuff, which kind of makes sense because like he is someone that you would see in these mystery cults, or Dionysus was like a god that you would see in the mystery cult. So overall, Bacchusmon has this kind of aura of being friendly, but if you get on his wrong side, he can and will mess with you, right? Kind of like the real the like mythological, like folkloric Dionysus. So I think that this is actually like a pretty straightforward interpretation of him. And one thing that I forgot is that he also has like a little necklace with grapes on it, which makes sense. Wine god, you know. When did this guy debut? 2013. So he's part of the same group that debuted alongside like Venusmon and Volcanusmon. So he's a little bit more closer to his the deity that he's inspired from. And actually, that is a good transition into this. So for this last part, I basically put all of the designs in chronological order just so you could see how their designs kind of evolved over time. So once again, these Digimon, they all came out at different times in different years. But you can kind of see some similarities with the designs, kind of like what give me a second. What did I... Testosterodel had said. How, like, you had asked if, like, Mercurymon debuted around the same time as Marsmon, and yeah, you're actually 100% correct. So, Marsmon... actually, he's a little bit earlier. He's not 2005. I think he was a little bit earlier. So, Marsmon, Mercurymon, Neptunemon, and Mervamon, they all debuted in, like, the 2000s. Which kind of makes sense because they all kind of have a very similar motif of like a jawline that's human, but then the top of their face is not human, right? It's more Digimon-like. With Mars, Mercury, and Mervamon, they're also the ones that their interpretations of the gods are a little bit different than what you expect. One might even say that they weren't even following the template of being based off gods and like in the first place, but you could make an argument. You can make an argument that maybe they're just alternative retellings of the gods. So like you have the god of war that isn't shown with armor or weaponry. He just fights with his bare fists. He has more of like a wrestling motif. You have the speedster who's more like a shaman, like an indigenous American shaman. You have a childish goddess of wisdom, but once again, they could be alternate. So like she shows like wisdom, but as it develops, he shows kind of like cunning, but like at the margins, and he shows war, but like in kind of like a showy, machismo way, I guess, so to speak. And then you have the twins. They both debuted at the same time. Their design-wise, they don't quite match the gods and goddesses, or the gods and goddesses that they're based off of. But they do have the whole motif of being like sun and moon deities and being opposites of each other. So that's pretty cool. And then you have the Digimon that all premiered during the 2010s. So these ones are definitely a little bit closer to the gods that they're inspired by. So their motifs are very similar. Their personalities even seem pretty similar. So yeah, it does feel like by this point, the creators were like, all right, let's actually make these more based off of the gods that we're naming them after. Right? So yeah, I think this last look is pretty interesting, basically, to just see how the design changed over time. Now that I think about it, the only Digimon that has the whole motif of like, oh no, okay, so you see how these four, they have the thing of like human jawline, non-human like rest of the face. It's kind of broken here. The twins actually have like more animal like jaws, but then you see their eyes, right? And then with Venusmon, she's way more human, but she's hiding her eyes. And then the rest of them, it almost seems like all of them are hiding their mouth. Now, actually, Charismon hides her eyes as well. So none of them are really showing their entire face. I think that's kind of the main thing. But that's also not limited to the Olympus 12. You see that with all Digimon. You don't usually see a Digimon that is showing its entire face, except for maybe Sistermon. I think there's also a couple. Oh, Lucemon. So there are exceptions, but yeah. So with that, I do have one more slide. This is actually the last slide, you guys. We did it. We did it. Okay, cool. I have 20 minutes before the next ad break. So yeah, this is actually the last slide. And this is all about monsters. I'm not gonna go into a lot of detail. I'm not gonna go into a lot of detail because I am starting to lose my voice, and this is meant to be kind of a teaser if I ever do a part 3. There is more. The Olympus 12 aren't the only Digimon that are based off of ancient Greek and Roman myth. There's a lot of monsters. digital monsters, yeah, but so Greco-Roman religious stories are very prevalent in Western culture and in Digimon. So there's even monsters. So for example, Achilles, he wasn't a monster, but he was like a hero in Greek myth. There's an Achilles mon. He looks pretty cool. He also has like a cat face. He kind of looks like Schnackery. There's Thetis or Amphimon, Ancient Troyamon, Arachnimon or Arukenimon. So she's based off the story of Arachne, right? I actually like her design a lot. There's Oranosmon, which is an Appmon, and then there's Zephagamon, who is pretty new. They got introduced in Digimon Liberator. And there's also 12 other Digimon that are references to specific monsters. So there's Cerberumon, which is Cerberus. There's Chimeramon, which is the Chimera. I think I can actually read out some of the other ones. So there's Centaurumon, the centaur. There's Cathilamon, there's Griffinmon, there's Harpymon, there's Hippogriffamon, Hydramon, Mermaidmon, Minotaurmon, Pegasusmon, and Sirenmon. So there's just a bunch. There is a lot. So much so that I couldn't fit it all into this video. Otherwise, I would have had to do a part 3. At that moment, I didn't have quite the energy to put all the, like, even more research into it. So if you guys are interested in a part 3, let me know. I might need to take a break from research for a little bit because this was a pretty ambitious project. But I would be interested. If you guys are interested, I would be interested. I'll put it that way. So, yeah. Otherwise, that's it, you guys. That's it. That was my big old project that took about a month. Just going over the various Greek gods, their Digimon equivalents. If you guys like this presentation, I can post the entire presentation on my Discord. I'm still thinking if I want to post it on social media as well. In my presentation, in the notes section, I do put the a little bit extra like information as well as all of my sources. So yeah, I am also, I'd love to hear it if you're down for it. Yeah, like I said, if you guys are interested, I'm interested. So that was awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So I'll show you guys this presentation, or I'll post it. I do want to do more like this, related to stuff like ancient Egypt or ancient China or Mesoamerica. I'd be interested in that. I do need to take a little bit of a break from research just to get my head back in the game, you know? She's still going. Not for long, Apolin. Not for long. I'm actually gonna stop at probably in the next 10 minutes or so. We might. Oh, Gino, my other cat's here. What was I gonna say? I am thinking of either editing this VOD to upload into like an edited, you know, just more concise video, or I might just re-record with like, you know, less interruptions, you know, or less tangents, we'll say. So I might do that. I haven't really decided yet, but yeah, I hope you guys like this content. It was really fun for me to do, and it was also really rewarding. So I love the way you teach. It's amazing. Thank you, local feeling. That means a lot. That means a lot. And a rave, perhaps? Yeah, we are gonna rave. We are gonna mosh. Thank you for the lesson. Really glad I found you. I am glad too. I'm glad that you could join the class. You're very much welcome here. You're very much welcome to come back whenever you want. Incredibly fun and passionate stream for my first ones. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. So yeah, we have for any newbies, we are gonna go ahead and end the stream here, but we do have an end of stream tradition. I usually call it my end of stream mosh pit. So you guys see the little cubs at the bottom of the screen there? That's you guys. You guys are my babing cubs. What I usually do is I just play some music, and you guys can go ahead and spam emotes. They usually show up on the screen. Mega Bronson, hello. You're just in time for the end of the stream for the mosh pit. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and then I'm gonna make your little avatars fight each other. It is RNG. It's not rigged. Someone's gonna win. I don't know who. Sometimes it's me, but that doesn't mean it's rigged. Yeah, you guys are gonna fight each other. Yeah, you don't have to control anything. They just fight on their own. I just use a command. So all you guys gotta do is like pick an emote that you like, and you can just spam it. You just we have a gay old time here. I usually win. Well, you guys heard A pulling. You guys know who to target, and it's not just me. All right, so who are we listening to today? Who are we moshing to? Maybe let's look at Falcone. Nope. Let's look at Falcone. Symphonic metal cover. I'm looking. Ooh, what if is there metal Digimon? There's a Latino cover of Butterfly, and it's also a metal cover. Are you guys interested in that? Let's do this. Let's do this one. Once you hear the music, get to moshin, and then we'll raid. That sounds sick. Let's do it then. Let's do it. Ah! Open up the pit. On my love. Ooh, that sounds sick. Oh yeah. Time for you guys to fight. Whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. It's folk versus local feline. Who's getting it? Who's getting it? Is it gonna be the first timer? We're so close. Yo, it's local feline. It's local feline. Let's go. I know you would. You see, it's it's not rigged. It's not rigged. Look, I'll prove it. Local feline, you won round 1, but can you win round 2? Fight. Yeah, congrats, you did it. Once again, it's totally RNG. I'm not controlling nothing. I wouldn't even know how to control it. Whoa, 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 whoa. Bam, bam, bam. Has anyone ever seen Babika Bear and Local Feline in the same room? No, we're different people. This is their first time here. Yo, it's Twisty. Let's go. See, I told you. It's different winners every time. And guess what? We have enough time for one more round. We have time for one more round of moshing, you guys. Now play nice. I find it suspicious that I was the last one killed in both rounds. That means that you'll probably get it this time. I feel like you might get it this time. Oh my god, it's always such a bloodbath, like in the first 5 seconds. 99% of moshers quit before they hit it big. Oh no, it's true. I was literally typing that. And let's go, it's Clyde this time. It's Clyde. See? Different winner every time. It's a different winner every time. That's how you know it's not rigged. Good job, you guys. Good job. I'm not sure if... I usually do a morning study stream Saturday morning, but my voice is kind of shot right now, so we'll see. We'll see. Keep I'll let you guys know through my social media or through Discord if stream is canceled tomorrow or not, but I'll let you guys know. Otherwise, it'll be 11 a.m. PT Pacific time. All right. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and raid into Aros. If you guys don't know who Aros is, he's a really cool penguin. He's gonna be playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. And but usually he starts off his streams with some yapping, and I see what he's yapping about. He had a cameo today in a debut, so he's really cool. Go say hi to him for me. I'm also gonna be in the chat as well. But I might see you guys tomorrow morning. I might see you guys next week. But thanks for dropping by. I appreciate you guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed. I appreciate that you guys enjoyed. Thanks so much for the wonderful streams. Yeah, of course. And we'll have more streams coming up too. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and start that raid. I hope you guys have a good morning, afternoon, or evening. And as always, I'll see you guys when I see you guys. Blood for the blood god. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate you. We raid.